Hello, crime enthusiasts. Are you ready for another chilling investigation? The case of Ana Carolina Lopez Enriquez. Ana Carolina Lopez. Enrique was born in February 1996 in Mexico. Her biological mother was diagnosed with HIV, while her biological father was unemployed and homeless. With such circumstances, it was difficult for her to have a normal childhood, however. Her life changed when she met a man named Efren Lopez Tarango and his wife. Efren was born in 1924 in Chihuahua. By the age of 20, he and his first wife had 6 children, but their marriage eventually ended in separation in 1997. At the age of 65, he remarried. His second wife, Albertina Enriquez Ortegon, was 45 years old. They wanted children of their own, but were unable to conceive. So, they decided to adopt a child. After some time, Efren and Albertina met a little girl who had just turned 1 year old, Ana Carolina. They completed the adoption process at a family integration center known as DIF. After realizing their dream of becoming parents, they registered Ana as their daughter legally to ensure that she would receive full benefits. They then brought her to their home in the city of Chihuahua. From day one, the foster parents tried to give her all their love to meet all her needs. They hired a nanny named Margarita to care for her when they were not around. Margarita described Ana as a wonderful and obedient child. The relationship between the two was good. Sometimes, she shared with Margarita things that she had not had the courage to tell her parents, however. She never felt like she truly belonged in her new family. Over time, she began to harbor resentment toward her half-siblings. She felt that they maintained a relationship with her parents only for selfish, materialistic reasons. At that time, Albertina owned several bars and liquor stores in Chihuahua, as well as real estate in Texas, so they can afford to live a comfortable life and spoil Efren's stepchildren from his previous marriage. However, Ana, their adopted daughter, always received the most attention and gifts. They not only gave her their love, but also fulfilled all her wishes. One of Efren's grandchildren recalled that Ana was deeply cherished and always got whatever she wanted. She was among the first in the family to own a desktop computer, a mobile phone, and trendy clothes. People who knew Ana say that as a teenager, she always took care of her appearance. Her nails are always carefully taken care of, which showed that she frequented high-quality beauty salons. Her hair was soft, long, slightly wavy, and always neatly trimmed. When it came to clothing, she preferred simple styles, often wearing regular jeans or trousers, but she always looked impeccable at school. She excelled academically. Her teachers described her as the smartest student. She got along well with her classmates, never missed school, and was always diligent in her studies. Although Ana always knew she was adopted, but the way she behaved with her adoptive parents was still very natural. Sometimes she argued with her mother, but to others, it looked like normal teenage rebellion. She seems quiet and doesn't interact much with her classmates. Maybe her introverted personality makes her withdrawn, or maybe she had trouble expressing her feelings during her school years. Ana was bullied several times by older teenagers who called her an orphan. These incidents deeply hurt her. She tried to talk to her parents, Efren and Albertina, about it, but they didn't take the issue seriously. Over time, this made her resent them more and more. She disliked that they were older than the parents of her peers. At times, she even thought about teaching them a lesson for not protecting her from being bullied. Over time, Ana feels increasingly resentful towards her adoptive parents, Efren and Albertina. Behind her gentle appearance lies an unapproachable personality. She gradually became more dissatisfied with them. However, it was difficult to pinpoint exactly when she started to change. She even became cruel to her dog, which really worried her parents. They concluded that she needed psychological help to uncover the root cause of her escalating aggression. So Efren and Albertina decided to send Ana to a boarding school in America. Before doing so, they planned a trip to Venice for her, what they didn't know. However, was that she had already started devising a plan a year earlier to distance herself from them permanently. She wanted to break free from their control and free herself from the constraints of life, realizing that, with her small size and weight, she could not carry out the massacre alone. She began looking for an accomplice. The person she targeted was a young man named Jose Alberto Grajeda Batista. Convincing him to join her plan was easy, as her parents disapproved of their relationship and had even forbidden them from seeing each other at one point. The plan also included Jose's friend, a young man named Mauro Alexis Gomez Zamaron. If the plan succeeded, Ana will receive a large inheritance from her adoptive parents, Efren and Albertina. Thanks to that, she can marry Jose and buy a house. However, things will not be as peaceful as a fairy tale because she has a cruel plan to kill both Efren and Albertina. Ana chose Friday, May 3, 2013, as the day to carry out her plan. She chose this day because Margarita was off work that day, and her father, Efren, would be out bowling from lunch until dinner. This means her mother, Albertina, will be at home with her after Efren left the house. She secretly brought in her accomplices, Mauro and Jose. She then went into the kitchen and called Albertina, pretending to need help finding a recipe. When Albertina arrived, Mauro silently approached her from behind and strangled her with a cable until she stopped resisting. She died, looking into the face of her adoptive daughter, Ana. While Ana stood by and watched her accomplices carry out the murder immediately after the attack, they injected Albertina with several doses of rat poison and hid her body. They then waited for Efren to arrive. When he entered the house, Ana used the same trick she had done with Albertina, luring him into the kitchen under the pretense of cutting fruit. There, he was caught off guard. Mauro quickly strangled him to stop him from breathing. However, Mauro was not sure that he was dead, so Mauro chained him to the table leg to prevent him from moving if he woke up. Ultimately, he was also injected with poison. With the first phase of their plan complete, the group stole all the money from the house and left to celebrate their success. When they returned, they drank beer and chatted casually, much like ordinary teenagers. The next morning, they cleaned up the crime scene, wrapped Efren and Albertina's bodies in plastic bags, loaded them into a white van. They then drove to the ring road, stopping briefly to buy gasoline, before selecting a suitable location to dispose of the bodies. A short while later, they realized they had nothing to ignite the corpses. They got back in the car and drove to the nearest store to buy matches. In the end, Jose burned their bodies. They were surprised that the fire spread so quickly that smoke was still clearly visible as they drove away. They then continued to burn Efren and Albertina's car. When they were done, they returned to the city. Mauro went straight home, while Ana and Jose stopped at a restaurant for something to eat. After visiting several stores to buy new mobile phones, Ana tried on various wedding rings, while Jose purchased a watch. Later in the afternoon, they attended a party at the place where Jose worked part-time as a waiter. That evening, the ministerial police in the city of Chihuahua discovered the charred bodies of two unidentified individuals. Due to the unusual condition of the bodies, the police requested assistance from forensic experts at the city prosecutor's office. In response, an expert named David Ochoa was sent to the scene. David was the specialist the authorities routinely consulted to profile criminals. David arrived at the scene within 20 minutes. The site was an abandoned lot in the southern part of the city, notorious for being a haven for criminals. Upon arrival, he immediately noticed that the bodies were burned. Judging by the condition of their teeth, he could easily tell that they were elderly. Their facial expressions suggested they were not anticipating the attack, showing no signs of fear or surprise. This led David to conclude that the victims likely trusted their killer. Over his 17 years of service, David had investigated 250 crime scenes. Part of his expertise involved constructing psychological profiles of criminals. He approached crime scenes as though they were works of art, analyzing every detail to understand the mind of the perpetrator. Even the smallest clues would reveal whether the attacker enjoyed inflicting pain or derived pleasure from the crime. Autopsies revealed that one victim was a woman in her 60s and the other a man in his 90s. The ages of the victims made the case extremely rare, especially since less than 1% of murders at the time involved people over 80. As experts worked to clarify the details of the incident, Anna attempted to report the disappearance of her parents, Efren and Albertina, initially. She reached out to her aunt, who advised her to contact the police and file an official report. It seemed that she was very confused when she went to the police station to report her parents' absence for a long time. Anna explained to the police that, until a few days before her parents, Efren and Albertina, went missing, everything had been normal at home. After carefully reviewing her testimony, the police filed a report on the disappearance of Efren and Albertina. Police soon connected their disappearance to two bodies found earlier. After an investigation, the authorities had the results of the autopsy and confirmed that the two bodies found were Efren and Albertina. Since then, the police have focused all their efforts to clarify the massacre. According to investigators, they interviewed all relevant witnesses, including Anna. Initially, no one suspected her involvement. Everything unfolded according to her plan, and her tragic backstory helped her gain the trust of the police, who viewed her as a victim. However, Jose, a man with a troubled past, began to reveal contradictions in his testimony. Investigators pointed out inconsistencies in his testimony, causing him to waver. Within minutes, he confessed that he, Anna, and Mauro had killed her adoptive parents, Efren and Albertina, as part of a revenge plan she had devised. After confessing, he sought psychological support. Once he regained his composure, he provided a detailed account of the crime. According to Jose, the murders were motivated by Anna's resentment toward her adoptive parents, Efren and Albertina. One day, he asked if she wanted him to solve the problem for her. She agreed, and from that point on, the group worked together to devise a plan to kill Efren and Albertina. Meanwhile, Anna has a change of attitude after Jose is questioned again. Without hesitation, Anna confidently told the police that she felt no regret for her actions. Her only concern was that she could no longer marry Jose. The fact that she had taken the lives of her adoptive parents, who loved her like their own daughter, did not trouble her. According to Anna, she could no longer endure their presence in her life, and their murder gave her a sense of freedom. Her calm demeanor remained even as she recounted everything in court. Anna's calmness while committing this barbaric crime attracted the attention of the prosecutor's office. They noticed that she showed absolutely no remorse. Investigators and trial participants have emphasized Mauro's role, who is alleged to have suggested how the crime was carried out. Therefore, the prosecutor's office tried to prove that the crime was a deliberate crime with bad motives and aggravating circumstances, such as personal gain. Under the country's criminal code, such a crime can be punished with life imprisonment. In Anna's case, the law was applied differently. The Supreme Court determined that she was a minor at the time of the crime, meaning her maximum prison sentence could only be 15 years, and that was only if she were convicted of aggravated murder. In contrast, her accomplices, Jose and Mauro, faced the possibility of spending the rest of their lives in prison. According to available records, they appeared in court in 2013. Chilling testimonies from the criminals revealed disturbing details. Mauro, one of the accomplices, may have been mentally unstable at the time of the crime. He suggested that Jose and Anna use the stolen money to buy food and supplies for themselves, acting as if nothing had happened when the details of the case were clarified. Mauro was the most reckless and heartless person in the group. He is the one who gives orders and commands to Jose and Anna. The group gathered all the tools used in the crime, placed them in a bag, and loaded it into the car they used to transport the bodies. Upon arriving at the location, they had chosen to dispose of the bodies. Mauro took charge. He removed the bodies from the car and poured gasoline over them as their confessions were presented in court. The room was filled with cries of anguish. Some wept because they were hearing, for the first time, the horrifying details of how their loved ones were killed. Others were in shock, unable to believe that their children had been involved in a conspiracy to take the lives of two innocent people. Mauro's mother seemed to be the most affected by the situation. She occasionally glanced at their son, as if questioning whether he was still the same person she had raised. Unlike Jose and Mauro, Ana's trial was held in private because she was still a minor. This worked to Ana's advantage, allowing for a shorter trial that focused primarily on her mental health issues. She had already undergone a psychological evaluation, and the results were included in the case. The report was both shocking and revealing. Experts noted that, despite her young age, the girl showed serious signs of psychological disorders. She was said to have sadistic tendencies, lacked empathy, had no conscience, and was not emotionally attached to her parents. Criminologist David Ochoa, who was involved in the investigation, remarked that it was extremely rare to encounter a young criminal who didn't cry. He was particularly astonished that Ana was capable of harming the very people who had taken her in and provided her with a life of luxury. The prosecution then made a final argument, asserting that Ana was fully aware of her physical inability to carry out the plan on her own. Despite her adoptive parents' advanced age, she sought out someone with physical strength to help carry out the plan. Ana pleaded guilty to the murder of her adoptive parents under aggravating circumstances, as well as to robbery. As a result, she was sentenced to 14 years and 6 months in prison and was transferred to a social reintegration center for juvenile offenders. In contrast, her two accomplices, Jose and Mauro, who were adults at the time of the crime, each received a 37 years prison sentence. It is important to clarify the charges brought against each of the criminals. Judicial representatives concluded that, during different stages of the incident that led to the deaths of Efren and Albertina, both Ana and Mauro acted as the organizers. Ana was the one who proposed killing her adoptive parents. Efren and Albertina, however, it was Mauro who devised the plan for the crime. Consequently, Mauro was considered the main perpetrator as he executed the plan. While Ana played the role of an accomplice, Ana provided Jose and Mauro with information about her adoptive parents, chose the date of the attack, and assisted in preparing the crime after the verdict was announced. Relatives of Efren and Albertina spoke out. They could not believe that this had happened to their loved ones. They also found it disturbing that Ana showed no visible signs of remorse. One of Efren's nephews mentioned that Ana was not only loved by her foster parents, but also had all her wishes fulfilled. He said that although Ana sometimes showed rudeness like other teenage girls, she was still a gentle child. Additionally, Efren's family announced their intention to appeal to the state Congress to lower the age of criminal responsibility to 16 years. This is because Ana, due to her young age, could be released from prison relatively soon. Despite the severity of her crime, they found this deeply unjust, while they understand that lowering the age of criminal responsibility will not apply to Ana. They hope it can help prevent similar tragedies in the future, as Efren and Albertina's families grieved their loss. Many of Ana's close friends were in shock. They could not believe she was capable of committing such a crime. Eventually, they decided to cut all ties with her, vowing never to speak to her again or visit her in prison. One of the people most affected by the tragedy was Margarita, Ana's former nanny. Devastated by the news of such a horrific crime, Margarita appeared in public in the days that followed looking exhausted. With dark circles under her eyes, she seemed so frail that many believed she might require immediate medical attention. When speaking to journalists, Margarita expressed shock and disbelief, saying that Ana's actions were unacceptable. She could not understand why such a terrible thing happened, and no one seemed to be able to come up with a reasonable explanation. 4 months after Ana was sent to the Center for Social Reintegration of Juvenile Offenders, A brief article about her appeared in a local newspaper. It portrayed her as a model inmate who strictly followed all the rules set by the center's administration. It was reported that Anna had no issues with any of the other prisoners. She actively participated in the judo program and never missed a training session during this time. She also resumed her studies and expressed hope of one day pursuing higher education at a university. According to available information, the only visitors she received were her two aunts from her biological mother's side. Although Anna was sentenced to 14 years and 6 months in prison, she was released after serving only 5 years. Her release was handled with strict confidentiality, as her case had caused widespread public uproar. In March 2018, authorities decided to release her due to legal reforms addressing juvenile offenders. The changes reduced her maximum sentence to 5 years. After her release, Anna disappeared from public view, however. Reports indicate that Efren and Albertina's families filed a civil lawsuit to strip her of inheritance rights, arguing that her and her accomplices' actions led to the deaths of Efren and Albertina. Hello again, true crime fans. We've got another mysterious case to explore. The case of Alexander Jackson. Cedar Rapids is a city in Lynn County, Iowa, United States. It is the industrial and cultural center of the state, with a population of about 130,000. It exemplifies the blend of modern urban living with rural traditions in America. Jackson's family used to live on Oak Street, Cedar Rapids, and then they moved to Oregon. The Jacksons were a well-off family and had a harmonious family life. The children were well-behaved and did not exhibit any aggressive behavior. The Jacksons relocated in September 2011. Jan and Melissa Jackson purchased a 320-square-meter house for $400,000. Their two children were Alexander, known as Alexander, and their younger daughter Sabrina, with a 1.5-year age gap between them. Jan retired after a successful career in information technology, while Melissa, who had been a photographer, became a stay-at-home mom after their children were born to focus on raising them. Their family could afford their children's college education and yearly vacations to resorts, and they lived in a large, beautiful house. In the evenings, the parents prioritized spending quality time with their children, engaging in activities such as watching movies or playing board games. They also engaged in lively discussions on various topics, including economics and the children's future. Alexander, though quiet and shy, but he easily makes friends. On the contrary, Sabrina is more outgoing and talkative. After finishing school, Alexander developed a passion for video games, often playing late into the night and chatting online with friends. He graduated from Kennedy High School in 2019. During that time, Alexander played the flute and Sabrina played the oboe in the school symphony orchestra. Here, he partnered with an organization to create a project to renovate a house in the historic downtown area. He spent many hours painting the interior house to make it habitable for low-income families. His efforts were featured in the local newspaper, highlighting his dedication to socially beneficial project. Additionally, he participated in scouting. Sabrina excelled in her studies and was very active. In December 2019, she represented the presidential candidate during his visit to Sedora Pizza to discuss global warming issues. It was likely during this time that her brother, Alexander, began to feel distant from her. On the contrary, his father, Jan, are very close to him. However, Melissa and Sabrina behaved in ways that irritated him, particularly their lack of understanding or acceptance of his interest in gaming. Their differing views on life frustrated him, and when he discovered that Sabrina planned to vote for an independent candidate in her first election, his disdain for her grew. Perhaps he had harbored resentment all along, but it was only now that he realized how different his sister, Sabrina, was from him. At that moment, he realized that he would no longer be able to look at her the same way as before. nor would he be able to cherish her the way he used to. Sabrina and Alexander were opposites in many respects: academics, extracurricular activities, and personality. Sabrina was a strong student, while Alexander did not, though he had no health or substance abuse issues. His difficulties were with his studies. This caused conflict with his father. Initially, they gave him a chance, but his grades continued to decline. He managed to complete only one semester, then, his academic performance plummeted, resulting in failed exams. He had previously worked at the university food court but eventually quit that job as well. Alexander always dreamed of opening his own business, but he didn't know how to achieve it. At the end of the semester, when the children returned to their parents' house for the summer, Jan learned about his son's problems with his studies. Alexander, unable to hold back, he decided to take drastic measures. He gave Alexander an option: find a job or move out if he didn't want to continue studying. At that moment, Alexander felt a betrayal that hurt. On the morning of June 15, 2021, everything seemed routine. The neighbors had no idea that just a few doors away, in a house basement, lay the body of a man who had been shot. At 8:23 a.m., Alexander called 911, reported encountering a weaponed man at his home. He said the intruder came up from the basement, where his father, Jan, was staying. The intruder then shot his entire family and injured him. When the officers arrived, they discovered a blood-soaked scene, with 3 bodies in different rooms. Doctors later confirmed that Jan, Melissa, and Sabrina were all deceased, each suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. They had been shot at point-blank range, with a total of 10 bullets fired. The police searched the property and quickly found a Browning .22 semi-automatic rifle, which had been used in the crime. Surprisingly, the neighbors had neither heard nor noticed the gunshots. During the investigation, detectives discovered that Jan had left a rifle on the fireplace, making it easily accessible. It was used in the family's murder. He had left it there after cleaning it the previous day. Normally, the rifle was stored in a locked gun cabinet. It is believed he was taking the stairs to the basement when he was shot. The killer then shot him 2 more times in the head. The killer proceeded to Sabrina's bedroom and shot her in the chest and stomach. Finally, he found Melissa's mother in the main bedroom and shot her in the head, leaving her body on the floor. Alexander described the attacker as a dark-skinned man, wearing green sneakers and black clothing. During the investigation, investigators found no signs of forced entry and no valuables were missing. The shooter's motive and method of entry into the house remained unclear. Investigators quickly questioned all the neighbors and collected CCTV footage. Reviewing the footage revealed that no one entered or left the house, caused many doubts about Alexander's testimony. The house was isolated, located on a hill with only one access road. Behind it were bushes that police thoroughly searched, looking for a hidden escape route for the attacker, but found none. Detectives begin investigating family matters and discover that Alexander has recently clashed with Jan and has a strained relationship with Melissa and Sabrina. He admitted to these issues, and it was speculated that the motive could be an inheritance of around $2 million. He was evidently hiding something, which was the first suspicion of the police officers. After being wounded, he was taken to the hospital for medical care, and the officers continued to interrogate him during the ride. Many of his statements were inconsistent. For instance, he initially told dispatcher 911 that all members of his family were shot, except him. However, in the ambulance, he appears surprised to learn that his sister, Sabrina, has also died. Alexander claimed he slept until 8 a.m., but it was discovered that his social media was active at 6 a.m., contradicting his story. Additionally, a pool of blood was found next to his bed, and forensic examination determined that he had shot himself in the leg at that spot, then bandaged the wound, went downstairs, and met the police. This contradicted his claim that an attacker shot him while he was downstairs. The nature of the wound made detectives suspicious, as the examination showed he shot himself in the leg. The bullet's trajectory and skin burns indicated a close-range shot. Detectives don't believe that a stranger who shot Alexander's entire family would leave him alive. The police tried to persuade Alexander to confess, but he continued to maintain his innocence. After recovering, he was arrested and sent to prison. Bail was set at $3 million, but he did not have that much money and remained in custody. He was charged with the murder of Sabrina, Jan, and Melissa. There was no doubt that Alexander was guilty. He is the only one in the family alive and had a motive. However, for the trial, physical evidence was needed. So investigators continued to collect evidence. According to police, since the 1982 Sitter Pizza case, this is the next known triple murder. The massacres shocked local residents, especially those close to the Jackson family. Their family has lived peacefully in their suburban home for 10 years, and everyone has always felt the family is very united. Part of the trial was conducted via online video because Alexander was recovering from injuries, but he later appeared in court. During the video, he was seen using crutches. The initial investigation focused on the gun used in the murder, which had 3 fingerprints on it. One of them was a fingerprint of the left palm, completely intact and matching Alexander's fingerprints. The second fingerprint is the fingerprint of the right palm, slightly blurred, also matching his. The third fingerprint was too blurred to be recognized. Fingerprints on the rifle suggest it may have been cleaned after killing the Jackson family. Alexander then picked up the gun, pointed the barrel at his feet and shot himself, leaving fingerprints that he did not wipe off. According to experts who spoke at the trial, this rifle has a very special loading and firing mechanism. Even experienced weapons experts have to spend a lot of time and effort to fully understand this type of weapon. The chance that a random burglar, who somehow avoided all cameras, could enter the house, figure out how to use the rifle, load it, and shoot 3 people was extremely low. That seems hard to believe, especially since Alexander is a good shot. He learned to shoot as a scout, and his father also taught him at the shooting range using that exact rifle. Law enforcement officers inspected the house's doors. It was a large residence with multiple entrances and exits, but police found no signs of forced entry at any of the entrances. Only the family members had keys to the house. The prosecution presented its version of incident as follows: Alexander had an argument with his father, Jan, about his academic problems. As a result, Jan told him to either move out or get a job. At that time, he had only $30 in his account. He had nowhere to go and didn't want to work, which became his motive for murder. He noticed that the rifle was easily accessible and saw this as his opportunity. In a fit of anger, he attacked and shot January, fearing that the rest of his family, Melissa and Sabrina, might witness his crime. He killed them too to eliminate any witnesses. He staged a fight, shot himself, and then called 911, claiming that a stranger with a rifle was responsible. The prosecution argued that his fabrication of the robbery story showed he had malicious intent, and he carefully planned it, aiming to avoid responsibility for the murder. The defense argued that these were mere assumptions, not backed by solid evidence. Many witnesses, including neighbors, testified that none of the family members were violent. They had no issues with alcohol, drugs, or mental health. They were all known to be friendly and welcoming. The family has never been in trouble with the law. Many people disagreed with the police's theory that Alexander killed his relatives. Despite some disagreements, but he had no strong motive to harm his family. The lawyer highlighted that he had no history of mental illness or violence. He hasn't had any problems with the law, not even minor infractions like parking tickets. Alexander consistently denied killing his family. He claimed he was shot in the leg by a masked intruder while struggling to get the rifle back. At the time of the incident, Melissa was 68, Jan 61, Sabrina 19, and Alexander was 20 years old. On March 3, 2023, Alexander Jackson was found guilty of the first-degree murder of his family. He was sentenced to 3 life sentences, one for each family member he killed. According to the jury, the court denied him parole. He is under surveillance due to the high risk of ending his own life. This is a common practice in prison for new inmates with life sentences. His defense team immediately filed a motion to request a new trial, but their request was denied. Hello, crime enthusiasts, are you ready for another chilling investigation? The case of Ashley Bush. Pregnancy and motherhood are often considered joyful times for many women. Families eagerly await the moment they meet their little one. Unfortunately, this did not happen to the Ashley Bush family. Ashley, 33, lives in Benton County, Arkansas, with her fiancé, Josh Willis. They are expecting a new addition to the family, as Ashley is 32 weeks pregnant. The couple has chosen the name Valkyrie Grace for their child. Ashley also has 3 other children: an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old from her previous marriage to Chris Bush, and a 2-year-old from her relationship with Josh. Ashley faced a challenging pregnancy and shared her health issues in online groups for expectant mothers. Due to these complications, her doctor advised her to stop working. During this time, she came across Lucy Barrow, who was selling baby products on social media. Realizing she needed to find a new source of income to support her family, Ashley created the following advertisement. She am currently 30 weeks pregnant and have 3 children to care for. She am unable to work due to health issues, and she fiancé is having multiple back surgeries and also cannot work. She am looking for a part-time job that she can do from home using she mobile phone. Lucy responded to the ad, and they began communicating on Friday, October 28, 2022. They decided to meet at the public library. Ashley was accompanied by Josh, while Lucy arrived alone in a pickup truck. During the meeting, they talked about job opportunities at a company that provides digital platforms for businesses. Lucy shared her positive experiences working there, and Ashley asked for support in her job search. The meeting went well, and Josh commented that Lucy seemed friendly and trustworthy. Lucy then sends Ashley a text message stating that the head of the company is interested in Ashley's application and would like to meet her on Monday, October 31, 2022, in Bentonville, Kansas, at 9 a.m. They agreed to meet first at the Handy Stop located in the Handy Mart gas station. Lucy plans to drive Ashley to the meeting with her boss. On the day of the meeting, Josh drives Ashley to the designated location. Lucy arrives in the same pickup truck she used for their previous meeting at the library. Ashley gets into Lucy's car and they drive to the interview together while Josh goes to do his own thing. Ashley was with Lucy until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but what happened during that time is unclear. Around 3 p.m., Ashley sent a text to Josh saying she was going back to the store where he had dropped her off and asked him to pick her up. Josh drove to the store and waited for Ashley inside. While he was there, he saw Lucy's pickup truck driving past with his pregnant fiancée inside, but the truck did not stop. Lucy noticed him and sped up, quickly leaving the gas station. Josh shouted after her, confident that she heard him but chose to ignore him. He then got into his car and tried to follow the women, heading north on Highway 43, but eventually lost sight of them. Josh later said he clearly saw Lucy driving with Ashley in the passenger seat. He immediately tried to call Ashley, but her phone went to voicemail. It was unusual that Ashley didn't reach out to him. Throughout the evening, Ashley's family attempted to contact her, hoping for any response. Josh also called the company where Ashley was supposed to be interviewing to get more information about Lucy and their scheduled meeting with the manager. However, the company claimed that they had no record of Ashley and no meeting was scheduled. This news shocked Josh, prompting him to post on social media that Ashley was missing. He detailed the situation and described Lucy as a 40-year-old white woman with shoulder-length brown hair. Ashley's family reported her kidnapping to the police, and the police immediately began searching for her. Josh informed the police that Ashley had just had an ultrasound, which showed that they were expecting a girl. Ashley was advised to limit her movements. Josh was extremely worried about Ashley and hoped she would return safely. The police have been searching for her non-stop since she went missing. The Benton County Sheriff's Office issued a missing persons alert that included Lucy's details, the store where they were last seen, and a description of Ashley's appearance on the day she went missing. She was wearing a black hoodie, blue jeans, and black loafers. On November 1st, Josh met with the police, and together they tracked Ashley's phone, which was found abandoned on the side of the highway near the Handy Stop store, where Ashley was supposed to meet Lucy. The police and Josh then went to the store to search for potential witnesses. The store employees were shocked to hear about Ashley's disappearance, as nothing like this had happened there before. The gas station typically sees around 300 visitors daily, and the staff did not recall seeing either Ashley or Lucy. On October 31st, the day Ashley disappeared, a man named Rick came forward with information. He stated that he and a friend were driving south on Highway 43 when they saw another driver heading north. This driver threw a red and black cell phone out of his vehicle. Rick described the vehicle as either a gray or light blue Chevy pickup truck. Police asked the public for assistance by urging anyone in the area that day to review footage from CCTV cameras, doorbells, and video recorders in hopes of uncovering any significant evidence. The police received information regarding the call records of Ashley and Josh's mobile phones to help create a timeline of their movements. Many witnesses reached out to them. Police also started identifying the person named Lucy, with whom Ashley had been in contact. Josh was able to identify the suspect through previous encounters. After investigation, the police were able to locate and identify the suspects. They were Amber and Jamie Waterman. When the police arrived at Amber and Jamie's home, the couple gave them permission to search the home. During the search, the police discovered a gray pickup truck that matched the description of the one Ashley and Lucy had been using. When they inspected the truck, they found blood on the center console, steering wheel, and roof. When police questioned Amber about her whereabouts on the day Ashley went missing, she said she was home all day with her son and daughter. She also mentioned that she was pregnant and in labor that day. That evening, Amber gave birth to a stillborn baby. When police asked Amber about her phone, she said she had lost it. She also said that she was the only one with access to the keys to her gray pickup truck. Amber denied knowing Ashley or ever dating her, but she did admit to knowing Lucy, as they worked together at Walmart. However, she said she was not close to Lucy and had not seen her in a long time. Police questioned Amber's husband, Jamie, about his activities on the day Ashley disappeared. During this questioning, the police seized their pickup truck and sent it to a forensic medical examiner for analysis. Around the same time, FBI agents became involved in the case. Police were looking into the circumstances of Amber's childbirth on the day Ashley went missing. The county sheriff reported that they received calls about a newborn baby not breathing on the night of October 31st, when Ashley was already missing. An ambulance intercepted Amber and Jamie near Longview, Missouri, as they were en route to the hospital, and a medical helicopter was on standby to transport the baby. Unfortunately, was unable to revive the baby, who was later pronounced dead. The coroner was called to take the baby to a local funeral home. The coroner said Amber was found with the placenta in her underwear when paramedics arrived, leading them to believe she had given birth. Amber refused any medical treatment or hospital admission. The baby was taken to a funeral home and Amber's placenta was also collected. On November 1st, Jamie and Amber went to the funeral home to arrange a service for the baby girl, whom they named Dakota, as soon as possible. The next day, November 2nd, they expressed their desire to have her remains cremated. The service was scheduled for 1 p.m. on November 2nd. On the morning of the scheduled funeral, the coroner received a call from police requesting DNA from the deceased baby and insisting on an autopsy. A witness said the funeral was normal, with about 12 people in attendance. The coroner arrived at the funeral home to retrieve the child's body for an autopsy. Amber's mood suddenly changed, and she repeatedly asked if there would be a DNA test. When she received confirmation that there would be, the couple suddenly stood up and left the funeral home. On November 3rd, police obtained a search warrant for Amber's home. During the search, they spoke with her husband, Jamie. He mentioned that on the evening of October 31st, he found blood in their gray Chevy pickup truck but didn't think much of it, assuming it was Amber's blood due to complications from her pregnancy. However, the situation soon took an unexpected turn. After the police finished their initial search and left his house at around 5 a.m. on Wednesday, November 2nd, Amber confessed to Jamie that Lucy did not exist and that she had killed Ashley. She then led Jamie to Ashley's body, which was dressed and lying face down by their boat, covered with a blue tarp. The police, during their preliminary search, did not check that area and therefore did not discover the body. Jamie agreed to help Amber dispose of the body, and they planned to burn it. Amber removed a ring from Ashley's finger and placed it in her pocket. They moved Ashley's body to the fire pit, with Amber uncovering it and dousing it with oil. Amber then gathered firewood to add to the flames. Jamie found an old small sofa, added it to the fire, and they attempted to incinerate Ashley's body for about an hour before Amber ultimately extinguished the flames with a garden hose. They were unable to fully incinerate the body as they had intended. Jamie attempted to remove the body from the burnt pile but found it was still too hot. The couple then loaded the body into the back of Jamie's pickup truck. However, the truck was in poor condition and couldn't drive far. Amber and Jamie found a secluded spot where they left the body. Shortly after, Jamie regretted helping his wife and decided to confess everything to the police. He went to the station to give a statement. After his confession, Jamie led the police to Ashley's body. They was taken aback by the state of the body. An autopsy later showed that the baby had been surgically taken out and the cause of death was a gunshot wound. On November 4th, Josh posted on social media that he was deeply saddened by what had happened. He said it was shocking to think that there were people capable of such acts and described Ashley as a wonderful mother and wife. She was a caring, kind person and did not deserve to go through this. He mentioned that her 3 children had just lost their mother, and he had lost his wife and daughter. He said that they would support each other during this difficult time, but that they were all heartbroken. Ashley Bush was reported missing to the Benton County Sheriff's Office at approximately 6:30 p.m. on October 31st, 2022. Her body was discovered on November 3rd, 2022. Amber and Jamie appeared in court on November 4th for a preliminary hearing. Amber, 42, faces 2 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of kidnapping, while Jamie is charged with being an accessory after the fact. Both were assigned public defenders. The prosecutor requested that they be held without bail until trial due to the seriousness of the charges, and the judge granted the request. The judge determined that Amber posed a danger to society and should remain in custody. They were then taken to the Greene County Jail in Missouri on November 4th. Amber refused to testify and maintained her innocence. It is still unclear where Ashley was murdered. During the investigation, it was discovered that Amber had attempted to lure other pregnant women by offering to sell baby clothes, despite having no clothes to sell. She was successful in this scheme until she met Ashley, who was looking for a job. Amber considered Ashley to be the ideal target. Amber Waterman, 44, was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in federal prison without parole for the deaths of Ashley Bush and her unborn child. Jamie has not yet been sentenced, but federal law says he could face up to 15 years in prison without parole, prosecutors said. A sentencing hearing will be scheduled after the U.S. Probation Office completes its pre-sentencing investigation. Hello, crime enthusiasts, are you ready for another chilling investigation? The case of Martin McNeil. Michelle Marie Summers, a well-beauty queen and part-time model from California. She had always cherished 2 things, her family and God. At 21, she met Martin, a 22-year-old man, at an event for Mormon singles. Michelle believed he was the man of her dreams, but her parents did not agree with that. They disapproved of his bold, abrasive personality and felt uneasy around him, wishing that their beloved daughter would not date him. Like Romeo and Juliet, her parents' disapproval only made Michelle find her relationship with Martin more attractive. While her parents saw Martin as a narcissist, she believed he was an ambitious man who had overcome a difficult childhood. When he threatened to end his life if she left him, she agreed to marry him. Then, they eloped and secretly wed in 1978. Their honeymoon was short-lived. Within 6 months of their marriage, Martin was sent to prison, leaving Michelle to spend most of her time alone. Before meeting her, he had forged checks totaling $35,000. In addition to typical items like jewelry and clothing, he bought a grandfather clock, 60 pairs of socks, a refrigerator, and strangest of all, he bought enough chocolate-covered cherries to last a year. He got the idea for check forgery from a TV program about check fraud, which claimed it could be done in 60 minutes. Martin thought he could do it even faster. Sadly, forging checks was just one of Martin's many lies. He almost completely made up the story of his life. He had ambitious plans for his future, despite a difficult childhood. While many young men pick up the guitar to join rock bands and impress women, he chose a different route. He aimed to gain wealth and recognition by becoming a doctor. However, his poor academic record posed an obstacle to his dreams. Undeterred, Martin applied his usual tactic, which was to lie. He first used a fake certificate to enroll in a medical college in Mexico. After studying there for 6 months, he forged more certificates and was accepted into a medical university in California. His plan worked, and in 1984, he officially became a doctor. By that time, he had also taken note of the many attractive women among his patients. Later, when Martin realized the respect people had for lawyers, he decided he wanted a law degree as well. Once again, he pursued this goal dishonestly. While working at the Brigham Young University Clinic, he falsified his application to gain admission to the university's law school. He has been a chiropractor for many years, but if his fake qualifications are exposed, he would have faced severe criminal charges. In 1990, he was caught committing fraud and was banned from writing medical bills for 12 years. In 1998, Martin was expelled from the medical center following allegations of sexual harassment, inappropriate behavior, and incompetence as a doctor. However, this did not deter him. In 2000, the governor of Utah appointed he as the chief physician at the Utah State Development Center. On the surface, he appeared composed and normal, but a closer look revealed otherwise. For example, he frequently threatened to end his life. However, whenever someone criticized his actions, he used this threat. In 1994, after being discovered having an affair with one of his patients, Martin threatened to end his own life. In 2000, after his wife, Michelle, discovered he was watching pornography, he threatened to kill her with a meat cleaver. His 14-year-old son had to intervene and take the knife away. 5 years later, he was caught again watching explicit films and once again threatened to end his life. It was also revealed that Martin had multiple relationships with women across the country. 2 of these women, Anna Osborne and Gypsy Willis, were more than just casual lovers. Anna owned a laser appeal clinic and met Martin in 2005 while he was working as a consultant. At the time, Anna was facing a difficult divorce, and Martin offered to act as a mediator between her and her husband. The reason is that he has specialized training in the field of lawyers. After that, Martin and Anna's relationship quickly became intimate. In conversations, he often bragged that with just the right combination of drugs, he could kill people easily, making death look natural, like a heart attack. He even suggested to Anna that she should kill her husband, but she initially thought that he was only joking. As for Gypsy Willis, she is Martin's true love. They met online in November 2005. Martin presented himself as a doctor and lawyer, he impressing she with his intelligence and charm. At the time, Gypsy was a 29-year-old nursing student. He gradually realized that without she, his life would not be perfect. Until then, he thought he had successfully balanced his double life, keeping his affair hidden from both sides. But he was mistaken. In February 2007, Michelle grew suspicious. She noticed Martin behaving oddly and decided to check his phone records. She repeatedly saw Gypsy's name and number. So she confronted him about the affair. He admitted to it and promised to end the relationship with Gypsy on one condition: Michelle had to work on herself, specifically her appearance. He asked her to have a facelift. At first, she was hesitant. She felt she needed to prepare for the surgery, as she had high blood pressure and wanted to address that first. However, he reassured her that everything would be fine. Reluctantly, she agreed, hoping the facelift might improve their marriage. Then, they met the surgeon, who would perform the surgery. Just moments before Michelle was put under anesthesia, Martin pulled the doctor aside and handed him a detailed list of medications to prescribe. He assured the doctor that he would personally oversee Michelle's recovery. Trusting Martin's medical expertise, the surgeon agreed without any hesitation. The operation was a success, and the doctor prescribed the medications as Martin had requested. However, these medications were dangerous when combined. The doctor assuming Martin would manage them properly, so he has no reason to worry. On April 3, 2007, Martin brought Michelle home from the hospital. She was heavily sedated, her eye was bandaged, and Martin took care of her. Their eldest daughter, 22-year-old Alexis McNeil, was studying to become a doctor, following in her father's footsteps. On April 10, 2007, she returned home for the holidays and to care for her mother, Michelle, who was recovering from surgery. She immediately noticed that her mother looked unwell and wanted to help. But Martin refused to let her. He asked Alexis to leave the bedroom, insisting that he would take care of Michelle himself. The next morning, Alexis found her mother in a state of exhaustion, lethargic like a zombie. She confronted her father, Martin, and he admitted he might have given Michelle too many pills. He explained that Michelle had vomited, so he gave her additional doses. Shocked that her father, a doctor, was mishandling her mother's medication, she insisted on taking over the responsibility of administering the pills. In private, Michelle confided in Alexis, asking to touch each pill before taking it. With her vision obscured by bandages, she relied on the unique markings on the pills to identify them. Michelle revealed she didn't trust Martin, believing he was up to something sinister. She even pulled Alexis close and said that if anything happened to her, Martin will be the one to take responsibility. Michelle recovered quickly, allowing Alexis to rest and continue her studies in medical school. The last time she spoke to Michelle on the phone was at 8:45 a.m. on April 11, 2007. When Alexis asked Michelle how she felt about Martin, Michelle responded happily, saying he was sweet and loving. She reassured Alexis there was nothing to worry about. However, Alexis unable to shake a sense of foreboding that something was wrong. During the morning of April 11, 2007, Martin left for work as usual. He then picked up his youngest daughter, Ada, from school at around 11:35 a.m. When they got home, he told Ada to go find her mother, Michelle, while he started preparing dinner in the kitchen. Little girl ran through the house calling out for her mom, but received no response. Eventually, she checked their bedroom, but her mother wasn't there. Thinking her mom might be taking a bath, little girl headed to the bathroom. She stumbled upon a horrifying scene that would haunt her forever. She found her mother, fully clothed, lying face down in the bathtub. The water had turned a reddish-brown color. Shocked and terrified, she screamed and called for her father, Martin. When he arrived, he told Ada to go get help from a neighbor, while he worked to get Michelle out of the tub. Then, Martin made a series of calls to 911. Some calls were abruptly disconnected, while in others, he claimed to be a doctor performing CPR on his wife, only to hang up again. These unusual behaviors prompted the 911 dispatcher to keep recordings. Shortly after the discovery of Michelle's body, Martin's son Damien and Damien's girlfriend, Eileen, arrived at the house. Martin speculated that Michelle might have overdosed on medication and passed out in the tub. However, instead of checking the medication himself, he insisted that Eileen flush the pills down the toilet and dispose of the packaging. The medical examiner concluded that Michelle had died from a heart attack, and police reports classified her death as unnatural. On the afternoon of April 11, 2007, Alexis received a strange message from her father, Martin. He mentioned that Michelle wasn't getting out of bed and asked Alexis to call her. When Alexis tried, Martin answered and said that Michelle was now in the bathroom, not breathing, and that he had called an ambulance. He then hung up abruptly, without waiting for her reaction. Alexis, one of the last people to learn about her mother's passing, hurried to Utah. She was deeply saddened by her mother's sudden passing, and she suspected that her father might be responsible. Her first reaction was to check how much medicine her mother had left, as she knew how many pills her mother had taken and how many should remain. However, Damien's girlfriend, Eileen, had thrown the pills away before she could check. The medical examiner concluded that Michelle had died from a heart attack, and police reports classified her death as unnatural. However, Alexis suspects that her father, Martin, is responsible for her mother's death. She confided everything to her older sister, Rachel, but no one wanted to believe that their father could harm their mother. Martin enjoyed taking risks and pushing boundaries. However, when he told his daughters to go to church and pray for God to send them a new nanny to care for the younger children, he crossed a line. Their mother had been buried only 3 days earlier, but the daughters obeyed their father and went to meet the nanny. The woman introduced herself, and Martin acted as though he was meeting her for the first time. In truth, he knew her very well. She was his mistress, Gypsy. She introduced herself as Jillian, but Alexis immediately recognized her as Gypsy Willis. Alexis warned her father, Martin, not to bring Gypsy into their home, but he ignored her. Less than a month after Michelle's funeral, Gypsy moved in with he. She didn't behave like a nanny at all. She didn't care for the children, clean, cook, or do any household tasks. Instead, she spent every night in Martin's bed. Rachel and Alexis questioned their father, Martin, demanding to know why this so-called nanny wasn't doing her job. However, he threatened to kick them out of the house if they didn't treat Gypsy well. With the help of their aunt, Michelle's sister, Rachel and Alexis cooperated with the police to investigate their mother's death. Meanwhile, Martin was scheming again. Gypsy is in debt, and Martin came up with a plan to solve it. He told her that creditors wouldn't be able to find her if she changed her identity, and he found a way to make it happen. Martin adopted a 16-year-old girl named Giselle, then sent her back to her biological family in Ukraine so Gypsy could steal her name and social security number. Then, he told Giselle that he would adopt her in the summer, but she never heard from him again. When Martin returned to Utah, he found a new home for his 3 other adopted daughters. A year later, Giselle's cousin, Gil, visited to check on her well-being. Upon arriving, Gil discovered that Giselle was living in extreme poverty with her biological family. Meanwhile, in the United States, Gypsy was living a comfortable life under Giselle's identity. Martin even altered his will, leaving everything to Gypsy. At times, he referred to Gypsy as his wife, while at other times, he claimed she was his daughter. When Gil brought the real Giselle back from Ukraine, Martin and Gypsy's fraudulent scheme involving fake documents was immediately exposed. In 2009, both pleaded guilty to federal charges and served time in separate prisons. While he was incarcerated, Rachel and Alexis tried to produce evidence of his involvement in the death of their mother, Michelle. The chief medical examiner agreed to review Michelle's toxicology report. Although each drug in her body is not toxic when taken individually, their combination can lead to death. The examiner also concluded that Michelle could not have taken the drugs on her own. As Rachel and Alexis investigated further, they uncovered the extent of Martin's lies. They discovered that his entire career was built on forged credentials. Adding to the scandal, Martin was still collecting disability payments from a brief stint in the military. Martin completed his prison sentence for fraud, forgery, and identity theft in July 2012. Perhaps he had plans to change himself, maybe become an astronaut, a nuclear physicist, or whatever his imagination could come up with. But he never got the chance. In August 2012, he was officially charged with the murder of Michelle. Tragically, Damien, one of Michelle's children, wasn't there to support Rachel and Alexis during this time. A few years after Michelle's death ended his life. Rachel and Alexis testified against their father, Martin, thereby exposing all of his lies and fraud. It also came to light that he had begun sexually assaulting Alexis just 6 weeks after Michelle's murder. He was convicted of this assault in a separate trial. Years after Michelle's death, her family finally uncovered the truth they had been seeking. Martin had drugged Michelle with substances that were nearly undetectable, then left for work to establish his alibi. In 2013, Martin McNeil was found guilty of murder and sentenced. As for Gypsy, she was only charged with identity theft and has maintained a low profile since the trial. Michelle and Martin's daughters are determined to completely eliminate their father's negative influence and figure from their lives. Alexis got married and adopted her 3 younger sisters. She also changed her last name from McNeil to Summers, her mother's maiden name. Alexis explained that she didn't want to be Dr. McNeil. She wanted nothing to do with. Hello again, true crime fans. We've got another mysterious case to explore. The case of Marco Marialini. Marco Marialini was born on April 13, 1959, in the town of Brescia, Italy. His father worked as a builder, and his mother Maria Lini was a housewife. She was obsessed with cleanliness and constantly tidied the house. Everything had to be in its place, and any mess could cause her to have a nervous breakdown. Marco had an older sister who was 2 years older. After Marco was born, his mother felt overwhelmed and struggled to keep the house clean. She suffered from emotional distress and may have suffered from obsessive-compulsive disorder, although she did not recognize her condition and never sought medical help. A month after Marco's birth, he was placed in the care of his paternal grandparents, where he lived for 2 years. His parents eventually brought him back home, believing their situation had improved and that they could handle the challenges of parenting. Once back home, Maria attempted to care for Marco, but he was very active and often caused trouble. He didn't listen to her and frequently threw tantrums. Frustrated, Maria sometimes lost her temper with him. Although Marco's father tried to step in during these conflicts, Maria dismissed his attempts. He is a calm and gentle man who always avoids conflicts with his wife to keep the peace. In the family of Marie, a serious incident occurred. Maria was trying to calm Marco, who was throwing another tantrum for no apparent reason and wouldn't stop. In a moment of frustration, she grabbed him and accidentally threw him out of an open window. Marco fell several floors and miraculously caught on the clotheslines located below, which saved his life. As Marco grew older, he gained weight. He didn't go on diets or actively try to lose weight, but he felt uncomfortable in his larger body. During his teenage years, he began to compare himself to his friends and felt disgusted by any girl who weighed more than he did. Additionally, Marco wanted his girlfriend to have a strong sex drive, equal to his own. However, finding someone who met these criteria was challenging. Most of the girls he met were either too heavy or not up to his standards. Because of this, Marco had a hard time finding a partner until he was 19, when he met Lucia. Marco and Lucia met in 1978. Lucia was short and weighed 100 pounds, and Marco fell in love with her petite figure and sought a close relationship. However, when Lucia first undressed in front of Marco, he was disappointed in her figure. Despite this, Marco continued to date her because he appreciated her calm, modest, and composed demeanor. Meanwhile, he continued to search for his ideal partner. A few months after starting their relationship, Marco joined the army and was stationed in Pisa, Italy. Believing that he would quickly find new love elsewhere, he stopped contacting Lucia. After a few months, when Lucia started dating someone new, Marco realized that he didn't want to lose her. He contacted her again and even proposed. Marco admitted that he decided to marry Lucia because he thought he could change her to fit his preferences. They got married in 1980, and soon after, Marco focused on controlling Lucia's weight. He believed that 45 kilograms was too heavy for a woman, so Lucia agreed to go on a diet. Marco restricted her food intake and weighed her regularly. When she lost weight, he praised her and expressed his love. However, if she gained weight, he became extremely harsh. After a few months, Lucia reached a dangerously low weight of 33 kilograms, which made Marco happy. Then, unexpectedly, Lucia became pregnant despite her low weight. Marco accepted this and allowed her to eat freely, he realizing that she shouldn't be restricted during her pregnancy. As Lucia's belly began to grow, Marco became unhappy with it. Their intimacy began to falter. During this time, Marco often fantasized about women who were very thin, like skeletons. He often fantasized about being able to see the woman's spine. As Lucia entered her final months of pregnancy, Marco began dating other women, especially those who were not only thin but also anorexic. However, he soon realized that these women were not right for him. Because they have unpleasant personalities and, most importantly, lack interest in intimacy. They make their own choices about food and eating, which is contrary to Marco's desire to have complete control over his diet. In 1981, Lucia gave birth to a daughter, and a year later, their family welcomed their second child. After giving birth, Lucia gained a significant amount of weight, causing Marco to increasingly distance himself from her. He found her post-pregnancy body unattractive. He eventually decided to divorce her, wanting to ensure that their children would stay with their mother. The divorce was amicable. Marco then began looking for a new partner, a journey that lasted nearly 10 years. During this time, he opened his own antique shop. In 1994, dating through newspaper ads began to become popular. Marco, 35, posted an ad describing who he was looking for. A very thin woman, not anorexic, aged 18 to 50. He received responses from 21 women and invited them on a date. Among them, he was most interested in Monica, who was from Sicily and 5 years younger than him. She was 1.72 meters tall and weighed 45 kilograms. She was friendly and outgoing. Curious about Marco's unusual ad, she decided to respond. Monica and Marco began to see each other regularly. While Monica viewed their relationship as casual, Marco wanted something more serious. He tried to convince her to move in with him. After a while, Monica decided to move in with Marco. In the same year, he started facing challenges at work. He had fallen into debt, and his antique shop was losing money. To help him, Monica lent him 76 million lira, the amount for which she sold the house. This was a large sum, considering that the average salary in Italy at that time was around 2 million lira. Although Marco proposed to Monica, she rejected him. At first, they lived as a normal couple, but after a while, Marco began to interfere with her diet. He said that a 1.72 m tall girl weighing only 33 kilograms was beautiful. But he set her goal weight at 38 kilograms. Monica agreed, Marco still secretly hoping she would reach 33 kilograms. It is unclear why he set that number. Marco limited Monica's meals to once a day, usually consisting of a plate of green salad or vegetables. He monitored the food in their house, marking the cereal jars and making sure Monica did not eat anything without his knowledge. He weighed her several times the day and became angry if he noticed her gaining a significant amount of weight. If her weight increased, he would force her to vomit and sometimes resort to physical violence. On weekends, the couple often eats out. Marco enjoys a hearty meal, ordering an appetizer, a second course, and a dessert. Monica, on the other hand, limits herself to a vegetable salad without dressing or unsweetened green tea. This is her routine, even on holidays. After a few months of dieting, she reached her goal weight, but soon after, her weight started to climb to 40 kilograms. Monica kept her diet a secret from everyone, including her parents and friends. As she began to lose weight, her relatives noticed and began to ask about her health. To avoid their questions, she changed the subject and eventually isolated herself, cutting off all contact with her friends and ignoring their calls. Over time, her health deteriorated. She felt weak, had no motivation to get out of bed, and her period stopped. Monica was constantly hungry and obsessed with food. She resorted to stealing, sneaking small dry crackers that Marco never counted. One day, she even ate a whole raw onion. When the Marco discovered that food was missing, he punished Monica severely. He forced her to have sex, physically abused her, and made her sleep on the floor. After 2 years of enduring this treatment, Monica felt completely drained. She finally made the decision to leave the house. When she told Marco that she wanted to end their relationship and return to her parents, he responded by saying that she would have to kill him for that to happen. He then threatened her with brutal revenge if she attempted to escape. In the spring of 1996, Marco and Monica went to a restaurant. Marco ordered a plate of spaghetti, while Monica chose a green salad and asked for no oil or seasoning. While they were waiting for their food, Marco said he needed to go to the bathroom. After Marco left the table, Monica suddenly took his plate of spaghetti and started eating it ravenously. When Marco returned from the restroom, he became extremely angry at Monica's actions. He snatched the plate from her hands and demanded that she calm down. In response, Monica rushed into the restaurant's kitchen, where the cooks and waitstaff were busy. She grabbed a plate of food and began eating with her hands. Marco found her there and brought her back to their table. He shouted at her and then slapped her hard across the face. The restaurant staff and other customers were puzzled and merely watched the chaotic scene in silence. After returning home, Marco decided to punish Monica. He stripped her and told her to sleep on the floor while he went to the bedroom to sleep comfortably in his warm bed. That night, Monica picked up a heavy hammer and attacked Marco while he was sleeping, hitting him on the head before fleeing the house. Hours later, Marco woke up with a severe headache and saw blood near him. Realizing that Monica was gone, he ran to his neighbor, who called an ambulance. Marco was taken to the hospital. Fortunately, he was not seriously injured and recovered fairly quickly. The police arrested Monica and took her into custody. During the interrogation, Marco defended Monica, acknowledging that he had been cruel to her. Marco said that there had been some misunderstandings in their relationship and that they would work things out. At trial, Monica was found guilty and sentenced to 2 years of house arrest. She then moved to her parents' home in Domodossola, a city in northern Italy, 200 kilometers away from Marco's home. During her house arrest, Monica was still able to use a phone. Although she never contacted Marco, he called her regularly. At first, he seemed concerned, showing concern for her well-being. However, over time, his calls became too frequent. During one conversation, Marco confessed that he could not live without her and wanted to see her again. Monica rejected his advances, but he persisted. In 1997, Marco wrote and published his first book, The Anorexia Hunter. The original cover photo that Marco chose featured a healthy, chubby man holding a skinny woman. He based the characters on the American cartoon Popeye the Sailor. However, due to copyright issues, Marco was unable to use the image, so the publisher released the book with a different cover. Marco has publicly stated that the book is an autobiography that reflects his real life. He expressed that he felt deprived of love and care since he was a child. He has a complicated relationship with his mother. Although he hates her, he sometimes feels affection for her. Marco describes his father as a weak and indecisive man. Marco wrote about his relationship with Lucia. In the book, he called Monica Barbara. He discussed the theme of control and power over girls. According to the story, the author killed Barbara. During the book's launch, Marco publicly declared himself a monster who needed to be stopped. An editorial writer who was present at the event found Marco's tone very offensive. After reading the book, the editorial writer went to the police to express his concerns. However, the police dismissed his report, believing that Barbara's murder was completely fictional. At the time, Marco had no criminal record, making it impossible to charge him based solely on the content of his book. When Marco's autobiography was released, Monica was still under house arrest for another year. Marco sent her a signed copy of his book with the message, "Love and Hate." He continued to call her, and Monica recorded their conversations on a dictaphone. Concerned about his mental health, she urged Marco to see a doctor. During his therapy sessions, Marco opened up about his obsessive thoughts and troubling fantasies, revealing the truth about his life. He was admitted to a psychiatric hospital for several weeks, but after his treatment, he returned home feeling disillusioned with medicine, realizing that the medication had not helped him. In 1998, Monica, who was 29 years old, was finally released from house arrest and allowed to travel around the country. Marco continued to contact her, pleading for a meeting. Although Monica initially refused, she realized that he wouldn't give up easily. Eventually, she agreed to one last meeting with him but specified her conditions. It had to be during the day in a crowded place. On July 14, 1998, Monica met Marco at a small beach in Verbania on the shores of Lake Maggiore, where young couples were swimming and sunbathing. They talked for a while, but then Marco began to pressure her to return to their previous relationship. Monica stood firm in her refusal, and in response, Marco started to threaten her. Monica and Marco were sitting on the shore when she suddenly stood up and ran away. Marco quickly caught up with her and knocked her to the ground. She screamed for help, but he covered her mouth with his hand. Although there were many witnesses, no one intervened. Marco then took out a knife and stabbed Monica 22 times, killing her on the spot. The witnesses called the police, but by the time the ambulance and police arrived, Marco had already swum out to sea. Officers using a lifeboat on the beach caught Marco. During questioning, Marco admitted to his crime, claiming that he had no intention of killing Monica. He said that he came to the beach hoping to convince her to return to the relationship. If she refused, he planned to kidnap her using his car parked nearby. Police found ropes, chains, knives, locks, and duct tape, suggesting a premeditated plan that ultimately failed. Marco denied wanting to run away after the murder. He mentioned that he tried to end his life but failed. During the investigation, comic book drawings were discovered in his home. In these drawings, he depicted himself as a large ball and the girl as a thin line. His artwork expressed mockery towards women. During his conversation with the journalist, Marco showed no remorse for his crime, stating that he felt he had no other option and did what he had to do. However, Marco acknowledged that he posed a danger to society. Marco Mariolini was found to be sane and guilty of murder, he receiving a 30-year prison sentence. While incarcerated, there was a time when he refused to eat, took laxatives, and lost weight down to 44 kilograms, but later he regained it. He was a problematic inmate, starting a fire in his cell and causing minor trouble for the guards. As a result, he was transferred to different prisons multiple times. Marco wrote letters claiming he should not be released because he would kill again, but he later denied this and then wrote similar letters once more. Italian director Matteo Rone was inspired by Marco's horror stories to create the film First Love. Released in 2004. Although it did not receive major awards, it drew attention to Marco's past. In 2021, there was an article written about Marco's early release and it was revealed that he had been transferred to a mental hospital. In late 2002, journalists approached Marco for an interview. During the interview, he expressed a desire to forget his past experiences with women. The journalists noticed that he seemed confused, often unable to answer their questions. His mental state may have been affected by the effects of medication. Hello friends, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. The case of Sarah Douglas. Sarah Douglas was born in 1987 in Sacramento, California, into a family of 5 siblings. They always get along and help each other. From an early age, her parents commented that she was a girl with a gentle and cheerful personality. However, during her teenage years, her personality changed significantly. She started associating with a group of troubled teens and to spend all her free time with them. As a result, she quickly dropped out of school. At the age of 19, Sarah started dating a boyfriend named Nicholas. In 2007, when she was 20, she became pregnant. By this time, her relationship with Nicholas was deteriorating, and they often fought over minor issues. The arrival of their child only increased the conflict between them, causing them to decide to separate. Nicholas moved to Santa Rosa, a city 150 kilometers away, where he began a new life with another woman. Despite being separated, he still cares for their son, and the two share custody. Sarah found herself in a challenging situation. As a young single mother, with a young child to care for, and education level is not high, she had difficulty making ends meet. Her parents were busy raising their own younger children and couldn't offer her much support. Although her mother and sister helped whenever they could, it still wasn't enough financially. She needed to find a way to earn money. Eventually, Sarah decided to work as an escort, drawn in by the good pay and flexible hours. She has an attractive appearance and quickly became famous in this industry, helping her earn a good income. However, She did not know much about the risks involved in this profession. After a few years as a call girl, she met Orville Fleming, a man who gave her the stability and security she had always craved. She hopes to quit her current job, find a husband, as well as a father for her son, and finally get her life on track. She believes so blindly in her dream that she does not notice the dangers around her. Orville Fleming was born in 1958 in California. Before he met Sarah, he was a happy husband and father. He dedicated over 30 years to his career as a fire chief, earning the respect of his community. He served for 24 years, including 3 years in Modesto. In 1993, he became a fire engineer with the California Department of Forestry. Thanks to his excellent performance, he was promoted to captain and became a battalion chief in 2012. Throughout his career, Orville built an impressive resume and reputation. He also worked part-time as an instructor at a fire academy, where he shared his valuable experience and trained future firefighters. Through hard work, he earned about $130,000 a year, enough to enjoy a wealthy lifestyle. When his children were grown, he and his wife could enjoy a comfortable life and their own pleasures. However, beneath the facade of this seemingly happy family lay a troubling secret about Orville. He spent most of his money on encounters with young escorts, as he found family life dull and craved excitement with attractive young women. He met these women through dating sites and escort services, and that led him to Sarah, a 20-year-old girl, 30 years younger than him. In his intimate relationships with these young girls, he sought the variety that was missing from his long-term marriage. His wife is a discreet woman, so he often turns to call girls to satisfy his private needs. After meeting the beautiful Sarah online, Orville began dating her regularly. She charges $300 an hour for each meeting. He became very fond of her, and their encounters began to occur more frequently. She opened up to him about her struggles, earning Orville's sympathy, which gradually evolved into love. He loved Sarah so much that he decided to divorce his wife to start a new life with her, and she agreed. Orville decided to take action immediately. He soon had a conversation with his wife, leading him to leave her and their 2 children to be with his mistress, Sarah. He purchased a house in a quiet suburb near Sacramento. Sarah joyfully shared the news with her family, believing that her life would improve and that she could finally create a stable family. She promised Orville that she would quit the escort service and never return to that line of work. Everything seemed to be going well. However, Sarah's family was concerned about the age difference between her and her boyfriend. She was only 24 years old, while her boyfriend, Orville, was 54 years old enough to be her father. However, he seemed to be a thoughtful family man, which helped ease their worries. They saw this as a happy time in Sarah's life and supported her, not wanting to affect her happiness. At the start of their life together, everything seemed perfect and joyful. Orville tries to arrange the house so that Sarah and her son feel as comfortable as possible. She gave up her job as a call girl and started a normal life, becoming a housewife. Their life felt like a fairy tale, a perfect home, and a loving relationship. Sarah wishes to have a closer relationship, and she also wants to marry Orville. Her dreams seem to come true when Orville presented her with an expensive engagement ring, adorned with a large diamond. She accepted his proposal, but her happiness was short-lived. Orville turned out to be very jealous and controlling. He was possessive and wanted to monitor her every move, making her report on everything she did. He realized that she was financially dependent on him, and he used that to control her life, making her completely attached to him. The relationship lasted several years until Sarah grew impatient. Orville exhibits obsessive behavior and wants to control the people she interacts with, even in public. This led to suspicions and arguments between them. Additionally, Conflicts arose with Orville's wife, Megan, who was still legally married to him. He filed for divorce, but the process took a long time, giving her more time to pressure him over financial matters. By early 2014, the situation had become very tense. Megan frequently calls Orville to ask him to pay off his debt and give her more money. She was particularly upset about the large sums he spent on call girl service, which often left Sarah in tears. At this point, Sarah and Orville's relationship had significantly deteriorated. She began spending more time with her mother and sister, and during one conversation, she admitted that she wanted to end the relationship due to the mounting problems. Sarah realized that continuing the relationship was a mistake. However, she did not think that her decision to leave him could lead to serious consequences. On Wednesday, April 30, 2014, Sarah's day started like any other. She sent her son to visit his biological father for a few days and planned a vacation with her mother and sister. They first went to a casino where they enjoyed themselves until 11 p.m. During that time, Orville kept calling and texting her, but she chose not to respond. He was upset that she ignored his request not to have fun while he was away. As midnight approached, Stephanie, Sarah's sister, took her back to the house she shared with Orville, and they said their goodbyes. Once inside the house, Sarah immediately noticed a strong smell of gas. She went to the kitchen and saw that the gas burners left on. Alarmed, she called her sister Stephanie to let her know that Orville had neglected to turn off the gas. It was obvious he wanted to poison her. Suddenly, a scream was heard, startling she. Orville had unexpectedly shown up, disrupt her and Stephanie's phone call. Then, all Stephanie could hear was her terrified screams. Assuming it was just another argument between lovers, Stephanie decided to hang up and go to bed. Early in the morning, Stephanie decided to call Sarah to find out what had happened the previous night. She dialed Sarah's number, but was surprised when there was no answer, as Sarah usually stayed in touch. As anxiety grew over Sarah's lack of response, she and her aunt went to Sarah's house around 8 a.m. to check. They rang the doorbell and knocked for a long time, but no one answered. Just as they were about to leave, her aunt tried the door handle, and to their surprise, the door opened. This was unusual behavior, which made them even more worried, but they decided to go inside. Once inside, they found the living room in disarray, with furniture out of place and items scattered everywhere. They cautiously made their way to the bedroom, hoping to find Sarah. At that moment, a neighbor heard them screaming from the window. He saw them running out of Sarah's house, clearly terrified. When he asked what was wrong, they told him there was a human body inside the house. The neighbor immediately called 911 to report the situation. By 9 a.m., officers were on the scene. Several officers worked together to calm and interview the witness. In the bedroom, the officers discovered clear evidence of a struggle. A young woman lay face down on the floor, showing no signs of life. She had injuries on her body and neck, including cuts and a sheet tied around her throat. Blood was splattered on the bed and walls. In the bathroom, they found a bloody towel thrown into the washing machine. All the windows were tightly closed. They quickly secured the crime scene and started their investigation. Forensic experts arrived to gather evidence, and the body was taken to the morgue for an autopsy to determine the cause of death. The witnesses identified Sarah Douglas, who was 26 years old when she died. The autopsy revealed that she suffered at least 14 stab and cut wounds, likely inflicted with a kitchen knife. There were also signs of suffocation on her neck, which was determined to be the cause of death. Forensic experts discovered multiple bruises and evidence of beatings on her body, indicating she had fought back fiercely. Blood tests showed that at the time of her death, she was neither drunk nor under the influence of drugs. Sarah's aunt and sister informed detectives that she had previously worked as a call girl, but quit after meeting Orville. Despite their age difference, she believed he was a good man who could help her build a better life. However, their relationship had become strained in recent months, and she had decided to end things with him. Additionally, Sarah's sister Stephanie informed detectives about everything she heard on her cell phone the night before. It was likely that Orville attacked Sarah and killed her out of jealousy. As a result, he became the primary suspect in the brutal murder, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. Despite their best efforts to search for him, they still couldn't find him. He was not at home, at work, with his ex-wife Megan, or with his relatives. He had gone into hiding, prompting the police to place him on a statewide wanted list. Just a day after the search began, Orville's official car was found abandoned near a house, but there was no sign of him being there, nor any clues as to where he might have gone. Police have gathered detailed information about Orville and issued a wanted poster stating that he is a particularly dangerous criminal. The database indicated that he owned 2 pistols, but they were not found in his car or at the murder scene. It is believed he was carrying them and may resist arrest. Citizens were alerted to stay vigilant and report any suspicious individuals, while also being advised to exercise caution and avoid confrontations with Orville, who may be armed and very dangerous. The search operation lasted over 2 days. During this time, family and friends gathered near Sarah's home, closely following the search and hoping for any news. They came to honor her memory as a victim of domestic violence. The media also took a keen interest in the case, tracking the police investigation closely. Orville's colleagues were equally shocked by the incident. They knew him as a kind, positive person and a professional with a stellar reputation who had consistently demonstrated his integrity on the job. However, it is worrying that he disappears soon after the death of his young lover Sarah, raising suspicions about his involvement. 5 days later, Orville was fired from his position as head of the fire department because he failed to report to work without any explanation. Given the circumstances, this was merely a bureaucratic formality. Meanwhile, the search is being extended to areas where he may be hiding. He is experienced in outdoor activities and regularly participates in challenging hikes. His endurance and survival skills are evident in extreme conditions. He is known for training in remote wilderness areas for long periods of time that few people know about. Even though there is a lot of information surrounding the case, the situation seems to be becoming more tense. Orville's wife, Megan, decided to make the situation more serious. She claimed that he and other members of the California Fire Brigade often invited escorts to the fire station for entertainment. Megan said she had seen videos showing these women arriving at the fire station and having fun inside the fire trucks. She also mentioned that a woman named Sarah had been present on a couple of occasions. The police received information regarding the situation and visited the fire station to speak with the employees and verify the details. However, they were unable to locate any video recordings or photographs that Megan had mentioned. Megan could not provide this evidence either, leaving the rumors unconfirmed. In addition, Megan also said that during the time Orville was having an affair with Sarah, he had run up a large debt due to his addiction to prostitutes. She asked him to pay the debt, but he never did. She also mentioned a diamond engagement ring that she suspected was fake. She also convinced the police that Sarah, Orville's mistress, had been stalking her, alleging that Sarah frequently called and threatened her. As a result, she sought a restraining order against Sarah, but this claim could not be substantiated as there was no evidence of harassment. It appeared that she may have fabricated these accusations to further tarnish Sarah's reputation in the eyes of the public. After 2 weeks of thorough investigation, the court denied Megan's request for divorce. On May 26, 2014, Orville was finally captured at a bus stop near where his official car was found. He had been hiding in the forest, but was spotted when he ventured out to buy food, despite having shaved his mustache and attempted to disguise himself. He was taken into custody without issue. He did not have a gun and surrendered to police. After his arrest, he needed special supervision. On May 20, 2014, Orville appeared in court. He claimed he could not afford a lawyer, but maintained his innocence. 10 days after the initial hearing, the city's road patrol began a new investigation into illegal activities involving members of the fire department where Orville worked. By October 2014, after the hearing had officially lasted more than a month, Orville formally pleaded not guilty. Sarah's family was shocked by Orville's arrogance, especially when he winked at the public defender. The prosecution detailed the troubled relationship between Sarah and he. He is portrayed as a jealous man who wants complete control over Sarah's life. He prohibited her from working, took away her personal bank account and mobile phone, and restricted her from using her own vehicle. Meanwhile, an investigation is underway into misconduct at the fire department where Orville worked. On December 29, 2014, the investigation confirmed that there was inappropriate sexual behavior between firefighters after hours. Although the video recordings mentioned by Megan were never located, but the investigation led to 16 firefighters being placed on administrative leave. In June 2015, the Orville trial entered its final stages. The defense presented defendant Orville in a favorable light, arguing that he was a victim influenced by Sarah, a prostitute with drug and alcohol problems. They argued that he was exploited and pointed out that he did not recall the argument with Sarah. This strategy was intended to help reduce the charges against him. As part of this strategy, the defense also sought to discredit Sarah. On the night of the incident, a violent argument erupted, which was overheard by her older sister, Stephanie. However, Orville described experiencing a dissociative state, likening it to being a zombie, as he went to the kitchen to get a knife. He then returned to the bedroom and stabbed Sarah multiple times. Next, he began strangling her until she showed no signs of life. He maintained that he could not remember the details, stating that the incident played out in his mind like disjointed fragments. Orville attempted to sway the jury by expressing deep remorse for his actions. The prosecution aimed to demonstrate that he was not telling the truth. They presented recorded interrogations where his statements contradicted his testimony during the trial. This discrepancy damaged his credibility and led the court to pursue a first-degree murder charge. On June 24, 2015, just 2 days after the debate ended and just before his birthday, Orville Fleming was charged with second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Sarah's death had a devastating impact, not only on her, but also on those around her. A few months later, her brother Leroy, who was very close to her, died, unable to cope with the grief of losing his younger sister. Welcome back, detectives. Let's dive into another horrible case. The case of Sandra Garner. Sandra and John met in the 1990s in the small town of Paris, Texas, which has a population of around 20,000. They worked together at a packaging company and quickly formed a close relationship, which developed into a romantic relationship. Sandra is 13 years older than John and has been through a divorce. She has 2 children from that marriage, Wes and Andrea. Although they appeared happy, their relationship faced many difficulties from the beginning. After dating for 2 years, they decided to get married. John became stepfather to Sandra's children, Wes and Andrea, and is also a husband who deeply loves his wife. They were married on January 1, 2000, in Las Vegas. John appears to be a friendly and sociable person, well liked by most people. However, those who knew him closely were aware of his struggles with alcohol. When he drank, he sometimes lost control and became aggressive. Additionally, He dealt with mental health issues and was on antidepressants. John worked as the HR manager, responsible for hiring and firing employees. He especially enjoys firing people, which leads many to think that he enjoys the power he has over others. Overall, John was a caring person who loved his family. After the wedding, his life seemed to get better, thanks to the sincere love between him and his wife, Sandra. They felt very compatible and quickly got along with their children, especially little Wes. However, Andrea did not like John, her stepfather. This is a normal psychological reaction of most children when they do not want to accept their parents' new partner, and it usually requires time to adapt. In 2014, Sandra started experiencing health issues and was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which greatly complicated her daily life. This has changed their family life a lot. John had to do the housework and take care of Sandra. During this time, she tried to work remotely to help out financially. He willingly supported her, helping her with daily tasks and providing emotional support. As a result, Andrea witnessed the love between her parents and began to empathize with John. The relationship between Andrea and John improved. She started helping John with more housework and taking care of Sandra. This brought their family closer. Unfortunately, Sandra's health continued to decline. She faced ongoing struggles with her illness, impacting both her physical and emotional well-being. The medication she took provided only partial relief, alleviating some symptoms but leaving her feeling emotionally suppressed. At times, she found herself searching online for ways to end her life, feeling overwhelmed by depression. During those times, she confided in John about her thoughts and expressed her worries about being a burden to him. John reassured her, saying that if she were to die, he would not want to continue living either. This conversation made Sandra realize that she could not leave her children without a parent. In that moment, John became her reason for living. As Sandra's health deteriorated, she decided to leave her job because she was unable to work, either in the office or from home. This meant that John was the only one earning money to support the family, causing further financial hardship. Even so, John showed no signs that he was stressed. He always supported his wife and children, was always by their side, and tried his best to help. In 2016, the family moved to a small town called Mai Sang, about 50 kilometers south of Taoist in Alice County. With a population of less than 1,000, Mai Sang is a friendly and cozy community. They loved it so much that they decided to buy a house there. John and Sandra have good relationships with both families. This was proven when John's relatives moved into a new house right across from theirs. They frequently organized joint events and celebrated holidays together. The backyard of John and Sandra's house became a gathering place for everyone. By this time, their children, Wes and Andrea, had moved out and were living independently. Sandra continued to battle her illness, but the family seemed to be doing fine, at least until 2018. On January 1st, they were set to celebrate their 18th wedding anniversary. They planned to have dinner at a restaurant and invited Sandra's son, Wes, to join them, while Andrea was away on a trip and could not attend. Wes arrived for the celebration and left around 7 p.m. Typically, Sandra and John went to bed early, around 9 or 10 o'clock, and that night was no exception. However, a terrible tragedy struck later that night. At around 1 o'clock in the morning, the 911 operator received a call from Sandra. She said she needed help and asked for both the police and an ambulance, as her husband John had been attacked. According to her, an intruder had entered their home, attacked her husband, and then forced her into the bathroom. There, the assailant ordered her to count to 100, threatening to kill her if she did not obey. She complied with his demands. Sandra told the dispatcher that her husband John was wheezing and likely still alive, and she requested help. The dispatcher provided instructions for performing artificial respiration, and she followed. Fishers were dispatched immediately, but it took them about 15 minutes to arrive. When they entered the house, they heard Sandra calling for help from the bedroom. There, on the floor, lay her husband, whom she had pulled from the bed to administer artificial respiration. One of the officers checked John's body. He was still warm, but showed no signs of life. It seemed he was still alive when Sandra called asking for help. Unfortunately, John did not survive until the authorities arrived. The medical team confirmed that he was dead. The officers then suspected that the attacker might still be in the house, so they conducted a thorough search but found no one else present. The killer had already escaped. Meanwhile, Sandra was in shock and began to have a hysterical reaction to the situation. As a result, she was unable to communicate with the police initially and required assistance. Medical personnel had to help calm her down, while detectives and forensic experts arrived to carefully examine the crime scene and collect evidence. Around 2 a.m., Sandra regained consciousness and was taken to the police station for questioning. The police checked to see if her hands were stained with gunpowder and determined whether she was the person who attacked John or not. Forensic experts photographed the crime scene, collected the clothes she wore before the police arrived, and interviewed an important witness who could describe the attacker. The police hoped she could provide useful information to the detectives. However, her illness made it hard for her to focus. Even so, she made an effort to assist with the investigation. Sandra explained that she and John had gone to bed together before the attack occurred. Everything happened so quickly that she didn't fully comprehend what was happening or see the attacker clearly. She was overwhelmed with fear. She recalled being awakened by a gunshot around 12:45 a.m., followed by a second shot. In the bedroom, she saw a man with a flashlight and a gun jump from the bed to the floor. She hid and screamed, hoping someone would hear her and come to help. The intruder was wearing a blue sweatshirt and jeans, a mask, and was much taller than she was. Sandra pleaded with her attacker not to kill her. He responded that he was there to take revenge on John and meant her no harm. He explained that he had been working hard at the company where John worked, but he was fired several years ago, which led to him losing his home and ruining his life. This grudge against John was the reason for his actions. Then demanded to see the safe. Sandra led him to the closet, where the reflections from the metal door allowed her to get a better look at him. She tried to get a better look at him, but he threatened to kill her if she did so. Fearful, she turned away and stopped trying to look at him. Then, he opened the safe and handed over the money, which she estimated to be around $18,000. She couldn't provide an exact figure since it had been a long time since she last counted it, but she was confident that it was $18,000. The police had no way to verify this, so they had to take her word. After taking the money, the attacker ordered her to go to the bathroom and count to 100. The interrogation lasted several hours, after which the police allowed Sandra to return home. By then, her family had gathered to support her during this difficult time. She needed them now, more than ever. She was deeply saddened by what had happened. However, some family members doubted her sincerity. Many people noticed her strange behavior immediately after she spoke to the police. She returned to her house, even though the attacker might return, as if she was not worried about the incident. In fact, Sandra seemed to be hoping the man would come back so she could attack him. Meanwhile, her family arrived at her son Wes's house and informed him that John had been killed. He was shocked and immediately went to the police station to report the incident. What was strange was that he did this before going to visit his mother. He did not even call her to ask about the situation. Later, the police understood Wes's actions. He had something important to share with them. From the very first sentence, he confirmed to the police that he believed the murder was committed by his own mother, Sandra. However, he felt very embarrassed to say this because it was difficult to give testimony against the closest relative. He was skeptical, that an intruder could have entered their home unnoticed, even though his parents had 2 dogs. These dogs should have barked to warn of danger. His statements puzzled the police. During the initial interrogation, Sandra's testimony was so clear and convincing that the police had no doubts about her. However, Wes maintained that his mother could have killed John, prompting the police to consider this possibility. Police thoroughly searched the entire crime scene, including the main house and several outbuildings like a garage and a barn. In the garage, they discovered Sandra's Ford Mustang. They were looking for her self-defense pistol, which Wes mentioned was usually kept in her purse but is sometimes hidden under the seat of the vehicle. Unfortunately, they could not locate the weapon. In the house, police discovered a total of 49 pistols and 10 rifles. All of these weapons belonged to John, a gun enthusiast who did not know how to store them safely. These weapons are kept all over the house, suggesting that John wanted a gun to be ready for use in emergency situations. This indicated that he might have feared an attack from enemies. However, one notable weapon was missing from his collection: a Taurus .38 revolver registered to Sandra. It is possible that the revolver was lost, stolen, or misplaced. Additionally, a small amount of gunpowder residue was found on her hand, which could have come from accidental circumstances, such as being near her husband John when he was killed. Besides, during cardiopulmonary resuscitation, Sandra touched her husband. The amount of gunpowder residue on her hands was minimal, suggesting she might have come into contact with it after the murder. Initially, she may have had more gunpowder traces, but they may have been deleted during the move. Although this evidence was circumstantial, it was quite suspicious, leading to her becoming a suspect in her husband's murder. During the investigation, police decided to examine Sandra and John's tablets and mobile phones. These devices were confiscated to analyze their messages and internet searches. Investigators discovered that Sandra was conducting very suspicious searches, including searching for fentanyl and other powerful drugs. Even more troubling, shortly before John's death, she had searched for methods to kill someone and ways to conceal a crime. However, these searches are not enough to definitely confirm her malicious intentions, as they are mixed with normal searches. Still, they raise suspicion. On January 4, 2018, police investigated the possibility that Sandra was involved in John's murder. The only issue was that they had yet to locate her gun. Officers consulted her son, Wes. He suggested that if he were searching for the gun, he would check his mother's car. Consequently, police decided to conduct a more thorough search of the car and garage. When the detectives arrived at Sandra's house, they found that the garage was locked. They asked Wes to open the door for them, and he went to see his mother. He had asked her to give him a spare key so the police could get into the garage. However, she was visibly terrified. She insisted that she would not let the officers in, demanding that they leave immediately. All those who witnessed this gesture were shocked. Her reaction left them feeling strange. Previously, she had communicated openly with the police and was willing to help in the investigation. However, on that day, she had a very strong reaction. Initially, Sandra expressed disappointment with her relatives because they suspected her of guilt. Afterward, she left the house and went to her garage in an attempt to stop the officers from searching. However, her efforts were in vain. The police informed her that they would conduct a search, even if she did not want it. If she refused to provide the key, they would break down the door, since they had a warrant. Consequently, she had no choice but to comply and unlock the garage. When they got in, they immediately checked under the driver's seat of the Mustang. There they found a grocery bag containing a paper towel that wrapped a rusty .38 caliber revolver. This suggests that during the initial search, the weapon was hidden elsewhere, and she later returned it to its usual location. This is absolutely certain because the police team that conducted the previous search was present at the scene again. Sandra was likely very nervous and reluctant to let the police into the garage. The investigators questioned Wes again, and he claimed to have seen Sandra put the murder weapon in her car after the police had left. However, she denied this accusation. It was puzzling because she had no motive to kill her beloved husband, who had always cared for her. The detectives decided to question Sandra again, not just as a witness, but as a suspect in her husband's brutal murder. They made it clear they suspected her of the crime. They pressured her, accusing her of lying and trying to obstruct the investigation. Although she was visibly upset and denied any involvement in the crime, her emotional response seemed sincere. She confirmed that there were no weapons hidden in her car. She was emotional at the time and could not provide any further information. Experts analyzed the flight path of the bullet from the gun used in the case. They determined that the shots were fired from the revolver found in the car, and the bullets collected matched this weapon. However, no fingerprints or DNA from Sandra were found on the revolver, indicating that it could have been used by anyone. Despite this, she could still be arrested and charged, but it would take more evidence to build a full case. The police went to arrest Sandra at her home, but she was not there, so they waited for her to return. When she drove up in her car, she was surprised to find herself immediately arrested. John's family watched from the windows of a nearby house. As the police handcuffed the family members of John erupted in applause. They feel grateful that justice was finally served and believe that she was the one who shot John. Sandra was taken into custody and her bail was set at $2 million, an amount she could not afford. As a result, she remained in prison for a long time. On March 21, 2018, Sandra Garner was officially charged with the murder of her husband, John. She spent 1.5 years in prison, which took a severe toll on her health. When she appeared in court in September 2019 in Waxahachie, Texas, she looked very unwell. It seemed that the situation had drained her of her remaining energy. She appeared physically worn out and emotionally exhausted. From the outset, the prosecutor's office believed they had strong reasons and sufficient evidence to convict her. However, as the prosecution's case progressed, it became increasingly clear that Sandra might avoid punishment, as the evidence against her was largely circumstantial. One of the key witnesses in this case is Sandra's son, Wes. He actively sought to push the investigation forward, even implicating his own mother. Wes confidently claimed that the weapon should be in the car, despite the fact that investigators found it was not there previously. Typically, someone who shares such detailed information about a crime raises suspicions of their involvement. This led many to wonder, did Wes want John, his stepfather, dead? Did he orchestrate the incident to have Sandra, his sick mother, arrested instead of facing consequences himself? When investigators looked closely at Wes, they discovered several troubling issues. He was able to kill John because he had access to the entire house and knew where the gun was hidden. Investigators discovered that the suspicious online searches only occurred on nights when Wes visited his parents, John and Sandra, after they had gone to bed. Tablet searches can be traced back to Wes in the first place. He seemed determined to make his mother, Sandra, pay for this crime, and even implied that she had a weapon. Wes's alibi was highly questionable. He claimed that he was at home watching videos on his laptop at the time of the crime, but no one could verify this. He lived alone. And during the initial investigation, the police overlooked a crucial detail. His laptop was set to a different time zone. Additionally, Wes can set the video to play continuously while he is absent, meaning he had no real alibi. Furthermore, John had a motive, as he was named in John's will, and might have wanted to access his inheritance quickly. In contrast, Sandra had no reason to want John dead. John was a significant part of her life and had cared for her during her illness for many years. He is the only one who earns money to support the family, and they live in harmony and attached together. During the trial, it was highlighted that the police had failed to act professionally. It took them 15 minutes to get to the crime scene. The police who conducted the investigation that night were inexperienced, as they had never been involved in a criminal investigation before. This led to some serious mistakes. In addition, the police needed to use special bags to preserve traces of gunpowder on Sandra's hands, but they did not do so. Photos taken at the crime scene on a police officer's mobile phone were later accidentally deleted and could not be recovered. The officers also did not conduct thorough interrogations of former employees at John's workplace, although Sandra said that the killer was fired from John's company, and from then on, he developed hatred towards John. The police only conducted interviews with a few witnesses, and they prioritized questioning John's family. Consequently, the prosecutor had to address the defense's claims about the police's lack of competence. There have been numerous investigations into police misconduct, and those found to be at fault were disciplined. The prosecutor needed to clarify why the police did not collect fingerprints from the door handle of the Mustang where the revolver was discovered. Forensic experts might have found a fingerprint belonging to another suspect, the person who hid the weapon. If that person was really Wes, he could have entered the house without making the dog bark because they recognized him. However, there were uncertainties. Sandra cannot recognize her son Wes's eyes or voice. She said she felt very scared at the time, and due to her illness, it was difficult for her to concentrate. As a result, she overlooked many details and did not fully understand who she was speaking to, and Wes could have altered his voice during their conversation. During the trial, Sandra asserted that her son, Wes, was responsible for the murder of her husband, John. She noted that all evidence pointed to Wes, and he even hid her gun and tried to arrange everything to blame her. Recently, she had observed his suspicious behavior and noted that he had become distant from John, with whom they had previously been friendly. To verify her claims, a cross-examination was conducted. This process can help prove innocence, but it carries risks. Even small mistakes in her answers can sway the jury against them. She has difficulty during this interrogation process, providing inconsistent answers and leaving many gaps in her story. She believes the cause was confusion and health issues, which may have left the jury unconvinced. The prosecution presented over 400 pieces of evidence and interviewed 25 witnesses, leading them to believe that Sandra would be found guilty of her husband's murder, John. However, when it was the defense's turn, they successfully refuted the prosecution's arguments and pointed out the negligence in the investigation process. They point out that initially, Wes was not considered a suspect. There was no testing for gunpowder residue on his hands, no polygraph examination, and no thorough investigation of his alibi. When the jury began deliberating, many thought it would be a long one. However, they returned a verdict after just a few hours. In the late afternoon, when the court announced the verdict, all of Sandra's family gathered in the courtroom to hear the decision. The jury found her innocent, bringing her immense relief. Overcome with emotion, she cried and embraced her lawyers. After serving 21 months in prison, she was finally free to go home. However, this news upset her son, Wes, and John's family. They believed that she was responsible for John's death and expected her to be sentenced to prison. The relationship between John's family and Sandra's family became strained, and this eventually forced his family to move away. Now, Sandra believes that Wes was the one who killed John. Sandra's relationship with her son, Wes, has deteriorated greatly. After the trial, they completely stopped communicating. Sandra's daughter, Andrea, continues to support she and believes in her innocence. The police have not closed the case, and for a while, they focused on Wes as the main suspect in the murder. However, valuable time has been lost. Many clues were lost, and many things were not done in time. As a result, it is now nearly impossible to definitively prove anyone's guilt. Evidence related to this case has been stored for years, and no one has taken the initiative to investigate further. Hello again, true crime fans. We've got another mysterious case to explore. The case of Anita Knutson. Anita Knutson, 18, had just finished her first year at Minot State University. She is intelligent, hardworking, and well-liked. She majored in education and aims to become a kindergarten teacher. Her family and friends believed this profession suited her perfectly because she loved working with young children. She often cared for the neighbors' kids. Anita shared an apartment near the university with a childhood friend. To help cover her tuition and living expenses without burdening her parents, she took on 2 jobs, one in retail and another at a local hotel. Despite her busy schedule, she maintains an active lifestyle and has many friends. In 2007, Anita was eagerly anticipating the summer break. She missed her home and family very much, although she regularly calls her parents and keeps in touch with her siblings. When her mother called on Saturday, June 3, she did not respond. She had a shift at the hotel that day, so her mother thought she might be busy or simply missed the call. However, on Sunday, not being able to contact Anita caused concern, especially since she did not show up for work. Worried, her father, Gordon, decided to travel to Maine to check on her. As Gordon approached the building where Anita lived, he noticed that the window of her room, located to the right of the front entrance, was broken. Getting closer, he saw a hunched figure of a girl sitting on the bed. Although her face was not visible from the window, but he recognized it was his daughter. He called her name, but when she didn't respond, he reached through the window to touch her. To his horror, he realized she was dead. Her body was cold. In a panic, he contacts the homeowner, Laura Knapp, and waits for her to unlock the door. Once inside the room, it is clearly too late to save Anita. The police were called to the scene and determined that Anita had been stabbed twice, once in the chest and once from the side. There were no other signs of injury or struggle. It was unclear whether she had been wearing a robe or if it had been thrown over her after she collapsed onto the bed following the attack. During the investigation, important evidence was found at the crime scene, including Anita's mobile phone and a folding knife covered in dried blood, which was discovered under the blankets on the bed beside the wall. Notably, several of Anita's valuables, such as cash, her laptop, and digital camera, remained untouched. Shows that theft was not the motive for the attack. Investigators concluded that the window was not the entry point for the killer. Even though the window was left open and was wide enough for an adult to crawl through, a maintenance worker named Marty Annell found a window screen on the ground outside the previous night. The screen had been cut into the shape of a capital L. Marty had picked it up with a knife, intending to fix or replace it, but had forgotten about it until Gordon arrived the next day to check on his daughter. Marty later gave the cut screen to the police. Despite the damaged screen, investigators were not convinced there had been a break-in through the window. No evidence of entry was found, and the dusty windowsills, both inside and outside, were undisturbed. This suggests that mesh panel was cut after the murder, indicating the killer likely did not use the window to enter. It appeared the crime scene was staged, and the murderer probably used the door. When Gordon entered the apartment, he found the front door locked, which required a key to open and close. There were 4 individuals to have keys to the front door. One belonged to Anita, another was her roommate, Nicole Rice, who was away visiting parents for the weekend. The third belonged to the landlady, Laura Knapp, and the 4th person is the maintenance worker, Marty. Marty caught investigators off guard because he was the one who discovered the window grill. He claimed he did not see Anita on the bed next to the window when he picked up the screen from outside. However, Gordon said that as he approached the building, he could clearly see Anita through the window. Initial DNA tests on items such as a pocket knife and other areas of the room yielded no clues, suggesting that investigators would need to look for the killer using other methods. They began looking into Anita's personal life and eventually concluded that she had been murdered. Cell phone records and forensic analysis revealed that Anita was texting a friend, Michael Van, early on Sunday morning, more than a day before her body was found. The text indicated that Michael, who had a romantic interest in her, sent a message asking her to reply to his previous message. However, Anita replied that she didn't know what to say. Their exchange was personal, but not flirtatious. The last text from him arrived on Anita's phone at 4:53. It turned out that Michael wanted more than just friendship, but friends stated that the two only communicated platonically. Michael isn't the only one who wants to date Anita. Tyler Schmaltz, a college student, he is shy and awkward, also has feelings for her. He admitted to having few friends, and Anita was one of the few who showed him kindness. They attended prom together in high school, but their relationship never turned romantic. Tyler admitted during a police interview that although he had long liked Anita, that did not stop him from being close friends with her. In fact, he even moved to the same apartment complex to be nearer to her. After the crime, Anita's family found Tyler's behavior unusual. He lingered in the cordoned-off area for an extended period, frequently reaching out to the police for updates. He even created a 20-minute video in memory of Anita and shared it online. Additionally, he organized and took part in fundraisers to cover advertising costs for information related to the investigation. He was questioned multiple times by detectives, and his DNA and fingerprints were collected and compared to those found at the crime scene, but there were no matches. Shortly after Anita was found, a witness reported seeing a man running away from the crime scene around the time of her murder. The police shared a description of this man and attempted to locate him. A local resident came forward, stating that he regularly jogged along that route at the same time. However, this lead was eventually set aside. Meanwhile, a construction crew working in the adjacent building had a clear view of Anita's apartment complex. DNA samples were collected from all the workers, and none matched the evidence. Investigators interviewed people close to Anita, including her close friend and roommate, Nicole Rice. The two had been friends since high school and were very close at the time. Nicole insists their friendship is still good and disagreements between them were only minor. In contrast, those who knew Anita described their relationship differently, suggesting that they argued frequently. Anita's father, Gordon, revealed that he had installed a lock on her bedroom door just a month before her death because she was worried about her safety at home. Many speculated that Nicole felt jealous of the attention Anita received, not only from their mutual friends, but also from the boys who were interested in her. Anita was uncomfortable with Nicole frequently inviting men over to their apartment and leaving them alone in her room for a day or two. Anita's friends were aware that Nicole sometimes had heated arguments with these men that turned into insults. Additionally, text messages from Nicole indicated that she was misrepresenting their relationship. In one message, Nicole stating that she was almost never at home and that she had everything in place. The police reported that over 4 people were interviewed and several DNA samples were collected from Anita's nails, the window, and the knife. At that time, these samples did not match any known individuals, but were preserved for future analysis. The investigation has not identified a prime suspect and has ruled out several individuals. For instance, Tyler was cleared from the suspect list. Although his behavior was deemed peculiar and his feelings for Anita could be seen as obsessive, there is no evidence that he was involved in the crime. Detectives concluded that this was not a case involving emotions. They also believe that the perpetrator did not enter through the window. Whoever the perpetrator was, they had a key to the apartment and could have locked the door when they left. Tyler appeared genuinely eager to assist in the investigation and find the murderer. He had no motive to harm Anita and willingly participated in interviews with both the police and the media following her death. He admitted to being in love with her, though she did not feel the same. They were merely good friends. Marty, the building maintenance worker, was also questioned multiple times, and information about him was gathered. This continued until January 2009, when Marty was found dead in his apartment. There has been much speculation over the years about Marty's involvement in the murder. His sudden death further increased suspicions that he could not bear his guilt. Anita's case remains unsolved, and for nearly 15 years, there have been no new leads. Tyler was not the only one seeking answers. Anita's family also gave interviews and shared any information, even small details, that might help resolve the case. Anita's brother Daniel, who was very close to her, died in April 2013 from emotional pain after her passing. The family believes that the death of his younger sister and his longing for her led to his severe and prolonged depression. Anna, the youngest sibling, said that Anita's passing had a serious impact on Daniel, making his life no longer the same. As a result, the family endured the loss of 2 children. In the fall of 2021, the investigation got a new lead when the American crime show Cold Justice took over Anita's case. Cold Justice is known for revisiting unsolved cases, which often leads to the arrest of suspects and obtaining confessions from them. The show's team traveled to Minot, North Dakota, to search for people who knew Anita. The Cold Justice team identified 4 main suspects in the case: Tyler, who they quickly re-interviewed and dismissed as a suspect; Michael, who had been attempting to date Anita and was the last person to communicate with her; Marty; and Nicole. Detective Maynata and the investigative team found no evidence of a conflict between Anita and Michael, leading them to eliminate him as a suspect. They also believe Marty's claim that he could not see Anita from the outside window is true. Police reports indicated that when they arrived, the lights in Anita's bedroom were off before sunset, making Marty unable to see her at that time. With Marty no longer a suspect, attention turned to Nicole. In 2021, she was arrested at the Maine Air Force Base, where she worked, and charged with the murder of Anita. The sheriff of Maine testified in court that after 15 years of investigation and following various leads, they had finally taken the suspect into custody. Nicole was taken to the Ward County Jail. 2 lead detectives were assigned to Anita's case and had been investigating it for the past few years. Thanks to Cold Justice's assistance, the case has made new progress and now has an arrest warrant for Nicole. Nicole was released on $125,000 bail and is currently awaiting trial. She has the support of her husband, who has encouraged her to drop the charges. However, authorities presented strong evidence suggesting her involvement in the murder. As the investigation begins, it becomes clear that Nicole is the only person in Anita's life with whom she has conflict. Text messages between them revealed increasing hostility. Friends noted that while Anita and Nicole were very close in their youth, their relationship had soured after moving in together. Witnesses recalled arguments involving alarm clocks and fish tanks, saying Nicole had called Anita derogatory names over the years. Nicole initially avoided arrest due to her alibi. Her parents claimed she had spent the entire weekend of June 2 to 4 on their farm, which coincided with the time of Anita's death. However, a witness reported seeing Nicole at a bar about 45 minutes away from town on June 2, 2007. Nicole later told that she had returned to her apartment to get some clothes. During a preliminary hearing in late 2022, Detective Talbot presented statements from people who knew Nicole and Anita at the time of Anita's death. He pointed out inconsistencies in Nicole's testimony, which led to her being retried and questioned as a suspect. A shocking detail was revealed by Nicole's ex-boyfriend. He recalled that at a party after Anita's death, friends of both confronted Nicole and asked her about what had happened. In a drunken state, Nicole laughed and claimed she was guilty in front of everyone. In 2008, 9 statements were submitted regarding the confession Nicole made at that party. Her boyfriend also reported to the police about the incident that transpired there. However, efforts to have Nicole repeat her confession while sober were unsuccessful. Ultimately, the judge concluded that there was sufficient evidence to charge Nicole when the case goes to trial, expected to occur in mid to late 2023. Nicole's attorney, Philip Becker, was expected to point the finger at a new suspect named Devon Hall, who had been arrested for breaking into homes. Officer Mainata, who arrested Devon Hall, noted in his report that Devon claimed he had been to many houses in the area. Philip also pointed to a statement from a witness who saw a man running from the area around the time of Anita's murder, claiming the description matched Devon. The defense insisted that it was Devon who broke into the apartment and killed Anita. However, a number of reports from previous investigators and even FBI analysts supported the theory that Devon was not involved. Investigators ruled out Devon as a suspect after receiving video evidence of him being at the railway station in Minot on the evening of Anita's murder. Therefore, the person seen running away could not have been him. It is likely that the defense will try to find new arguments, especially since opinions about Anita's death differ. The prosecutor's office believes that Anita died early in the morning of June 3, shortly after sending her last SMS. If Devon was the killer, then Anita must have died much later, after he had already arrived by train on the evening of June 3. Based on the information released in this investigation, the case against Nicole remains unclear. No trial date has been set at this time. If Nicole Rice is convicted, she faces a sentence of life in prison without parole. Hello again, true crime fans. We've got another mysterious case to explore, the case of Roxana Vargas. Roxana Vargas was born on September 11, 1988. Venezuela. She grew up in a warm and loving family with her older sister Mariana and parents Antonio and Ana Teresa. At 17, she graduated from the school at the dawn of the ball and received a scholarship from the Granmar Riscal Foundation to study social communications at the Catholic University of Santa Rosa in Caracas. So she and Mariana moved to the capital to live with their grandmother, who already lived there. Their parents frequently traveled to Caracas to visit them, cherishing the time spent together. By 2008, Roxana was in her 8th semester at the Faculty of Social Communications. She was also involved in the production of the well-known program Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. One of the last messages on her phone was sent on July 12, 2008. Said she was on her way to meet a friend at Plaza Venezuela at the time. She was in the Chacom area, but then she disappeared. Initially, detectives suspected that she might have been a victim of a robbery or kidnapping. This suspicion comes from the quick kidnappings, where criminals would abduct victims for a few hours to demand a ransom, releasing them afterward. Unfortunately, many of these incidents ended tragically, with some victims being killed if their families could not pay the ransom. Investigators have ruled out a kidnapping. As Roxana's family has not received a ransom demand, they then considered the possibility of a robbery, but there was no evidence to support this theory either. On July 14, 2008, the body of a girl was discovered by a security guard working at the Biosa Airline building, now known as Conviasa. Located in the Kaiser Park area of Caracas, the guard heard loud barking from dogs near a vacant lot close to his workplace and decided to investigate. Upon approaching the lot, he found the lifeless body of a girl lying amidst a pile of construction debris. Shocked by the discovery, he immediately contacted a criminal investigation agency. Detectives arrived at the scene and determined that the body was buried under rubble. stones, wooden boards, and other waste, forensic experts conducted an initial examination and concluded that the girl had been dead for approximately 36 to 48 hours. Her face was disfigured, and one of her eyes was dislodged from its socket. The body showed multiple injuries and bruises, but the primary cause of death was determined to be a skull fracture. Caused by several blows to the head with a blunt object, the girl was wearing a triangular earring in her left ear, but the matching earring from her right ear was missing. The police quickly identified the victim on July 13, the day before the body was found. A woman named Anna had reported the disappearance of her 19-year-old daughter, Roxana. Roxana's physical description matched the body, and DNA testing later confirmed her identity in a conversation with Roxana's mother, Anna. She admitted that she suspected one person. The person she referred to was psychiatrist Edmundo Chirinos. At the time, Edmundo was 73 years old and was a well-known psychiatrist. Highly educated, he earned his surgical diploma in 1958 and graduated as a psychologist in 1960 from the Central University of Venezuela. Additionally, he obtained master's degrees in neuroscience and clinical psychology from prestigious institutions, including Oxford and Cambridge in England, the University of Marseille in France, and Quincy University in New York. By 1961, Edmundo founded the School of Psychology at the Central University of Venezuela, and in 1984, he was elected as the university's rector. He has a varied professional background, and he is also actively involved in politics. In 1988, he ran for president as a candidate of the Independent Moral Movement. By 1999, he was a member of the National Constituent Assembly. Due to his impressive academic qualifications, he served as a personal therapist for Presidents Jaime Lucinchi, Rafael Caldera, and Hugo Chavez. He also established a psychiatric clinic called Clin Uesi in La Florida, Caracas. Anna shared with detectives the reasons she suspected Edmundo of killing her daughter, Roxana. She revealed that Roxana used to date him. She also mentioned that Roxana had been a patient of his, seeking help for postpartum depression. After Roxana was diagnosed with depression on October 2, 2007, the family decided to consult a trusted doctor, Edmundo. At that time, Roxana was already struggling with eating disorders. Roxana had long been concerned about her weight, and these thoughts became increasingly distressing for her. Anna said that during her first consultation with Dr. Edmundo, Roxana was diagnosed with schizophrenia, a decision her family felt was made too quickly. Nevertheless, they decided to follow Edmundo's advice when he suggested that Roxana try a method that would increase her sleep time. He believed that this method could solve her problem. The sleep therapy he proposed involved taking small doses of sedatives and sleeping pills over a period of time. When Roxana met Edmundo again for further consultation, he began asking her strange questions, including whether she had a boyfriend. She replied that she did, but this was not true. She had feelings for a young man named Mariana, who did not return her affection. Mariana was also her sister's classmate, and at that time, she only had a friendly relationship with him. Edmundo then inquired if she had been intimate with her boyfriend, to which she truthfully answered no, as she was still a virgin. During their first meeting, Edmundo attempted to get physically closer to Roxana, which felt inappropriate to others, however. She began to notice that his desire for physical closeness with her was becoming more apparent. After one of Roxana's consultations, she asked her mother to take her to the pharmacy to buy sanitary pads because she had unexpectedly started her period. Roxana's mother, Anna, was aware of her daughter's menstrual cycle and knew that this period was not due yet. Although this was unusual. Anna remained calm. One day, while Roxana was in another sleep therapy session with Edmundo, Anna waited in the waiting room and met another mother named Luisa, who was also there for her daughter's sleep therapy. They exchanged phone numbers, and during their conversation, Luisa revealed that her daughter had also started her period right after a session. Both speculated that these occurrences might be side effects of the sedatives and psychotropic medications their daughters were taking. On October 15, 2007, Roxana had her last consultation with Dr. Edmundo near the end of the session. She woke up when the sleeping pills she had taken stopped being effective. The first thing she noticed was a bright light shining in her eyes. Then, she felt Edmundo touch her lips and kiss her. In a matter of moments, he removed her underwear and began to assault her. She was in shock and tried to escape. But he quickly stopped her, hugged her, and said that sedatives can sometimes cause hallucinations. When she left the clinic, Roxana went to meet her mother, Anna, and together, they walked to the shopping mall. There, they met her best friend Valentina, seizing the opportunity when her mother was not listening. She told Valentina about what had happened in the clinic. Valentina was so disturbed by Roxana's story that when Roxana went to the restroom, she spoke to Anna about her concerns. When Roxana returned, Anna immediately confronted her, asking what had occurred at Edmundo's office. She recounted the events, though her memory was hazy due to the sedative. After hearing the details, Anna took Roxana to a gynecologist, and the doctor confirmed what Roxana had said. She had always been honest with her mother, so Anna believed that her daughter was not at fault. Roxana's horrifying revelation, coupled with a medical examination, shows that Edmundo took advantage of her. Anna considered suing Edmundo for violence against her daughter, Roxana, but later she felt worried about this decision. She doubted anyone would believe her, because Edmundo was a famous and prestigious doctor with many connections in the political world. She worries about the consequences both she and her daughter will face if she files a complaint. After leaving the gynecology clinic, Anna takes Roxana back to Bay del Pasco for a psychological consultation with Dr. Abel. As they are concerned about her mental health, the girl was experiencing insomnia and nervous breakdowns, and she frequently expressed a desire to see Dr. Edmundo. Abel diagnosed with bipolar affective disorder and eating problems, which made her feel anxious and stressed. She underwent treatment with Abel until mid-December 2007, during which she showed significant improvement. As a result, Abel recommended that she return to Caracas to continue her studies. He also advised avoiding any meetings with Edmundo. Anna found a female psychiatrist, Audrey Roussin, at the Scarakis Treatment Center in Caracas. Now, Roxana could continue regular psychiatric consultations to maintain her mental health, which was a relief for Anna, however. As soon as Roxana returned to Caracas, she started an intimate relationship with Edmundo. This time, their interactions were not about consultations or treatment sessions. In her blog, she described their first encounter and mentioned that their relationship was without commitments. As Edmundo was much older than her, she also shared her feelings for him. However, she felt worried because in his eyes, she was just an object to satisfy his sexual desires. She became more and more emotionally dependent on him. Over time, her family and friends realized that this relationship was still going on, and they tried everything to convince her to change her mind. They wanted to force her to break up, but she refused. Roxana trusted her mother and sister completely because they knew her very well. They noticed a sudden change in her mood. Initially, she hoped that Edmundo would develop feelings for her, but as time went on, her hopes faded. By May 2008, she was fed up because she no longer wanted to be the object for him to satisfy his sexual desires. She threatened him that if he did not change, she would make their relationship public. She also planned to gather evidence of his mistreatment of other patients. She warned him that if the incident was exposed, his career would be over. As no one would want to see him for medical treatment anymore, Edmundo understood Roxana better than ever. He was aware that she had once participated in a popular television program, giving her a platform to share her story with the media. Additionally, the TV channel that aired the program was owned by someone who had previously clashed with he, making the fallout even more serious. It became clear to he that if she went public, it could lead to a nationwide scandal. On July 12, 2008, around 2 p.m., Roxana met with Mariana, a young man she had previously loved. In the Chacao area, he was supposed to help her write a script. The meeting took place at a shopping mall around 6 p.m. However, the meeting was interrupted when Edmundo kept calling to harass Roxana. She felt forced to cancel her date with Mariana, saying she needed to see her best friend. Irma, however, Mariana, who knew Roxana well, quickly realized she was actually going to see Edmundo. In fact, Mariana, Roxana and her sister were all close friends and knew about her relationship with Edmundo. He had told her many times that he did not approve of the relationship, but his words had no effect. She often had to come up with excuses to hide from her friends and family whenever she went on a date with Edmundo, because she did not want to be criticized. Ultimately, Mariana had no choice but to put her in a taxi, knowing she was indeed heading to meet Edmundo. Earlier that evening, she had planned to meet Irma, but she eventually texts Irma to say she's going to meet someone Irma also knows. Referring to Edmundo, Irma understood immediately. When Irma called, she around 7:40 p.m., but only received a brief answer. After that call, no one heard from Roxana again. When the police began investigating the case, Edmundo tried to defend himself and gave interviews about Roxana's disappearance. During the interview, he confirmed that she had come to the clinic that day, but had only stayed for a few minutes. On July 21, 2008, Edmundo was called to the prosecutor's office to testify as a witness, but failed to appear. Consequently, the detectives assigned to the case searched his belongings, starting with his office at the La Florida clinic. There, they discovered a triangular earring, which matched the one found on Roxana's body. They also found blood stains in the office and collected samples for DNA analysis using luminol. Forensic experts found large blood stains on the sofa, which appeared to have been meticulously cleaned. Along with hair, DNA testing confirmed that both the blood and hair belonged to Roxana. At that time, Edmundo lived in a penthouse in the Cebucan neighborhood of Caracas. However, it wasn't long before the police arrived at his residence. What they discovered among his personal belongings shocked them. They found 1.2 photographs of women, some naked, others in their underwear. Most of these photos were taken at his clinic, and the women appear to be under the influence of psychotropic drugs. Among the photographs were also images of Roxana. This evidence implicated Edmundo in Roxana's death. Despite this, he denied all accusations from the start. On August 1, 2008, Edmundo was arrested and charged with the attempted murder of Roxana. During the initial hearing, the court ordered that he remain under house arrest while the investigation continued. He was also prohibited from leaving the country, and his medical license was suspended. However, despite these bans, he continued to quietly provide psychological counseling services at home for 2 years. Until the trial began, it was not until the trial that he was permanently stripped of his medical license. Edmundo's trial officially began on March 16, 2010. The prosecution presented its case based on evidence gathered during the investigation. According to them, on July 12, 2008, Edmundo asked Roxana to come to his office. Shortly after 7:00 p.m., she went to his clinic in La Florida, where he struck her repeatedly in the head with a blunt object. An autopsy revealed that she had suffered at least 7 skull fractures. Additionally, the amount of drugs in her system far exceeded the recommended therapeutic dose. It was also discovered that she had been taking antidepressants during the trial. The prosecution has established that Roxana, due to her psychological condition, was emotionally unstable and easily manipulated. Edmundo, being medically trained, was fully aware of this and exploited his expertise to manipulate and intimidate her. 15 women testified during the trial, all alleging that Edmundo had subjected them to abuse during sleep therapy sessions. The court verified their claims. Edmundo's defense team argued that Roxana's visit to his office that day was very brief, suggesting he had no involvement in her murder. They attempted to shift the blame to someone else, asserting that he had no connection to the crime. However, despite these efforts to distort the facts, the evidence presented to the court was overwhelming. In September 2010, the court sentenced Edmundo Chirinos to 20 years in prison to be served in the state of Miranda. At that time, the maximum sentence for similar cases was 30 years. While in prison, Edmundo underwent surgery in the intensive care unit. Afterward, it was claimed that he could neither speak nor walk and began using a wheelchair less than 2 years later. In March 2012, he was released from prison to serve the rest of his sentence at home. This news spread across various media outlets, and what drew attention was that, upon his release, he was speaking perfectly normally. This sparked public outrage. As many saw it as an injustice, it appeared that arrangements had been made to allow him to return home. It became evident that the surgery had not resulted in the severe complications that were initially reported, leading to speculation about the true reasons for his release. On August 24, 2013, Edmundo passed away at his home from natural causes. The story of Roxana and Edmundo remains etched in the minds of many Venezuelans and is considered one of the most shocking cases in the country's history. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we will explore a new case, the disturbing case of Ryan Wingarden. In the shadow of seemingly peaceful family relationships, sometimes lurk horrifying secrets. The case of Ryan Wingarden and his sister Gail is a terrifying example of human depravity. At the same time, the terrible consequences of greed and the desire to protect shameful secrets, a blood relationship turned into a nightmare. This devastating event shook an entire community and left an indelible mark. Ryan's case revolves around jealousy, a person willing to kill to keep their secrets hidden. The story takes place in Holland, Michigan, a small town known for its rich Dutch heritage and culture. The town's charm and beautiful scenery create a pleasant atmosphere. Newlyweds Gail and Rick Brink lived in a northern town that seemed perfect for they to build their future together. They were excited to begin renovating their new home. Sadly, jealousy and hidden secrets shattered that happiness. Now, let's talk about Pam, Ryan's wife. She kept a devastating secret for 25 years to protect her family, career, and reputation. The burden of hiding this truth became unbearable, and on January 18, 2013, it all came to light in front of detectives. Pam revealed the long-held secret that had haunted her out of love and fear. She allowed her husband to dominate her life. Ryan controlled whom she could talk to and even threatened her life. For 25 years, she lived in torment with the knowledge of how Gail and Rick were murdered. Back in time, when Gail was 19 and Rick was 22, they met at work in 1984. Rick was so taken by her that he told his mother he had found the one he wanted to marry. Gail came from a large family with 8 children and was not financially well off, but she was ambitious, determined, and knew her goals. When she met Rick, she felt it was destiny, and they formed a strong couple. They knew they needed to work together to build the life they dreamed of. Soon, Gail decided to move in with Rick, and on April 25, 1986, they got married. Just one day after Gail turned 21, they planned to purchase a house together after their honeymoon. They returned to Michigan and began searching for a ranch-style home with 20 acres of land on the outskirts of town. This type of property was perfect for the newlyweds, who wanted to start their life together. Rick successfully negotiated with the bank and managed to buy the property at a good price. But the house required extensive repairs. Fortunately, Rick had previously trained as a carpenter's apprentice, and his skills are very useful for renovation. Gail and Rick moved into their new house in 1987 and started making repairs. On November 21, they attended the wedding of one of Rick's school friends. Enjoying time with friends, this would be the last day anyone saw them alive. By November 23, 1987, neither Rick nor Gail showed up for work, which was highly unusual as they were both dedicated employees who never missed a day. Concerned, Rick's parents were alerted by their employer about Rick and Gail's absence. Immediately, they went to Rick's home on Ransom Street. When they arrived, they found Rick's SUV still parked in the driveway. But what they discovered next left them shocked and horrified. Rick was found in the front seat with attacked by force to his head. His parents quickly called the police. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Department arrived and secured the area. Upon searching the home, they discovered Gail dead on the marital bed, her face obscured by a bloody pillow. When the pillow was taken away, police discovered that Gail had been assaulted 3 times. Both Rick and Gail had been brutally murdered. When they had only been married for 18 months, the inspection of the crime scene revealed that nothing in the home had been disturbed. This created a mystery that baffled the officers. Initially, police suspected Rick may have murdered Gail and then harmed self-harm in the car outside. However, this theory was quickly dismissed after the bodies were moved and examined. As no gun was found in the house or nearby, they then considered the possibility of a robbery. But further examination showed that all belongings were in their original places, all the money was accounted for, and there were no signs of forced entry, struggle, or any damage. Both Gail and Rick were still wearing their jewelry, and the entire house was clean, with hardly any evidence found. Here, they found no weapon at the scene. Also, could not locate the bullet casings during the search. The police found fingerprints. 4 belonged to Gail and Rick, while 2 were from an unknown source. 1 fingerprint was found on the toilet seat, and the other on the phone. The police checked these prints against their database, but found no matches, lacking physical evidence. They shifted their focus to gathering information about the victim's lifestyle and habits by interviewing friends and family. Ryan described Gail and Rick as the sweetest couple he had ever known, stating he had never seen a husband and wife get along so well. Rick's brother, Bat Brink, called the funeral an incredibly sad occasion. Gail's family, particularly her sister Cheryl and Ryan, were especially grief-stricken. After the mourning period ended, the police resumed their investigation, exploring different leads, but still lacked any evidence. Multiple theories emerged, but all the leads proved fruitless and unverified. A month later, on December 24, 1987, another shocking crime occurred. Deborah and her husband were found dead in their backyard, both with their throats slit. This case bore similarities to the previous murder of Gail and Rick. Nothing was stolen. There were no signs of a break-in, and no clear motives could be identified. The remarkable point is that the 2 families lived only half a mile apart, raising concerns among the public and investigators. However, this connection was dismissed when differences between the 2 cases were identified. The murders of Rick and Gail appear to have been carried out in a premeditated manner, suggesting a planned murder. Another theory caught the attention of investigators. Gail was looking into financial irregularities at her workplace, and the dossier she took home went missing, however. This theory was eventually set aside as the police ran out of leads, and the case went cold. Despite this, the murders of Rick and Gail remained in the public's memory. In 2007, 20 years after the murders, a group of investigators established a cold case unit in the Tawa County Sheriff's Department. This unit was led by detectives Venus Repper and David Blakely. In there, the Brink murder was one of the cases they chose to investigate. Although the documents were old, they managed to recover important notes. Venus and David noticed some remarkable details. During their discussions with friends and family, they frequently heard the name of Ryan. Unlike other family members, Ryan often made bizarre comments during family gatherings. Relatives recalled that he exhibited odd behavior. For example, he once claimed to have a vivid mental image of Gail's murder, stating he could see someone walking down the hallway to her bedroom. Cheryl remembered him saying, "Sometimes I wonder if I could have done something like that." Additionally, Ryan confessed to his sister Lynn that he felt a need to apologize to Gail because he believed he had violated her during the previous investigation. Police had ruled Ryan out as a suspect due to an alibi provided by his then-girlfriend, Pam. She claimed that on the night of the murder, she was doing laundry with Ryan, and her account matched his, making his story credible. And then, it was later revealed that Pam and Ryan had actually gone to a friend's house that night to use the washing machine. Upon reviewing the reports, detectives found inconsistencies in Pam's testimony. Although Pam's testimony strongly supported Ryan's alibi, the polygraph test revealed a different story. When asked if she was with Ryan that night, Pam said no, and the polygraph indicated no deception in her response. This raised concerns, so detectives decided to investigate further by visiting Pam in the trailer park where she lived with Ryan and their children. At that time, Pam and Ryan had been married for 23 years and had 3 children together. Pam had first met Ryan in 1987 when she was a single mother with a 6-month-old baby. They married in 1990 and remained together since then. The detectives arrived at the trailer park and were greeted by Ryan. Since marrying Pam, Ryan had become a devoted husband and was actively involved in raising their children. He informed the investigators that Pam was not home, and they asked him about his account of the double murder that occurred that night. Ryan's recollection of events was quite vague. After the brief investigation, the detectives arranged to meet with Pam at the department later, but Ryan insisted on being present for the conversation. They informed him that this was not possible, as they needed to question Pam alone. Pam's account was consistent with the alibi she and Ryan had previously provided. Despite this, detectives Venus and David sensed that something was off. They were determined to investigate further, delve into Gail's and Rick's past. As they looked into Pam and Ryan's relationship, they discovered that Ryan had not always been faithful to Pam while dating her. He had also been involved with another woman, Crystal Beelan, with whom he had an unstable relationship for 4 years. She ended things with Ryan when she realized he was becoming serious with Pam. But their friendship continued. Detectives located Crystal and invited her to the department, where she agreed to come in voluntarily. The interrogation proceeded smoothly, and no incriminating evidence emerged during the conversation. However, she disclosed a significant secret that changed the direction of the case. She revealed that Ryan had previously confessed to her about an incestuous relationship he had with Gail when they were younger. A few days after the murder, Ryan had asked Crystal to drive past the crime scene, but she found it inconvenient, so they went to a nearby park instead. While at the park, Ryan expressed a need to talk and said he wanted to share a heavy secret with her. He then recounted the sexual relationship he had with Gail, claiming that it was consensual. However, He mentioned that, in his last request to Gail in the backyard, she rejected him, but he still proceeded with his intentions and forced himself on Gail. Ryan showed Crystal pictures of Gail in a bikini, expressing how he couldn't take his eyes off Gail and that he was deeply attracted to her. It seemed he was the only one aware of his feelings. One day, Rick caught Ryan staring at Gail, leading to some suspicion on Rick's part. Although he didn't confront Ryan about it, Crystal's revelation about Ryan's feelings gave the detectives a new perspective on the case, but her information wasn't sufficient, prompting the need for more investigation to gather more details. They needed to speak with Pam. When Ryan and Pam arrived at the office, it was challenging to persuade Ryan to allow the detectives to speak with Pam privately. Eventually, he relented, and the questioning of Pam began. In Pam's testimony, she revealed that she was deeply in love with Ryan, particularly because Ryan was encouraging her and her child to move in with him. However, the situation quickly took a turn for the worse. That evening, Ryan took Pam to Gail's house, he parking in a way that would keep them hidden. He then led Pam to Rick's car. When Pam looked inside, she saw Rick's body on the front seat. Ryan didn't allow her to linger. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her into the house, leading her down the hallway. In the master bedroom, they have seen Gail's lifeless body, which appeared to be peacefully sleeping. Ryan picked up a pillow and placed it over Gail's face, saying, "Isn't she beautiful?" He then turned to Pam with a threatening look and warned, "If you go to the police or tell anyone what I did, this could happen to you too." Terrified, Pam fled from the house, despite the horror she had just witnessed. That night, she stayed with Ryan at his house. The next morning, they continued their lives as if nothing had happened. When Pam insisted on knowing why Ryan killed Rick and Gail, he finally confessed that he had a sexual relationship with Gail when they were younger. He was afraid that Rick might have found out about it. Over time, Ryan also revealed that he envied the success of Gail and Rick because he felt unsuccessful in his own life. He made money by selling small amounts of illegal substances. And after marrying Pam, she became the main provider for the family. While he stayed home to raise their children, Ryan was jealous of Gail's life and her husband, their new home. With her career, he was consumed by jealousy and resentment. Watching Gail be happy with someone else, Ryan was quickly arrested after Pam's confession. However, he maintained that he did not kill the family. He only admitted to having had a sexual relationship with his sister Gail before her marriage. The family had mixed feelings after the investigation concluded, but they were relieved that the case was closed and Ryan was in custody. The police searched Ryan's home, but did not find the murder weapon or clothing, which was expected given the time that had passed since the crime. The fingerprints from the crime scene did not match Ryan's, but the motive for the murders was compelling. As a result, Ryan was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. His trial began in March 2014 in Ottawa County Court. The prosecution argued that Ryan was driven by jealousy and feared that Gail would reveal their incestuous relationship. 60 witnesses testified against him, but it was Pam's testimony that ultimately determined Ryan's fate. In Pam's testimony in court, Ryan reacted by hurling insults at her, leading the court to reprimand him and have him removed from the courtroom. Pam recounted her troubled marriage to Ryan and described the night he took her to see the bodies of the victims. Additionally, Ryan's cellmate testified that Ryan bragged in prison about his murders and expressed a desire to kill his other sister, Cheryl. Because she was assisting in the investigation, Ryan also defended himself, but his statements were erratic and confusing. He claimed that the authorities were conspiring against him, suggesting they needed to close the case. He alleged that the police had coerced Pam into giving false testimony. On March 28, 2014, the jury reached a verdict. Ryan Wingarden was found guilty of both murder charges during his sentencing. Ryan shouted and made threats when asked to calm down. Ryan Weingarten was ultimately sentenced to 2 life terms in prison without the possibility of parole after the trial. Cheryl expressed her feelings, stating that although she had loved her brother all her life, she now despised the person he had become. Ryan's mother never accepted the verdict and passed away in 2021 at the age of 90. Pam later divorced Ryan. He has lost all his appeals and remains imprisoned to this day, although it took more than 2 decades. The truth has finally come to light thanks to the efforts of investigators and the cooperation of those who dare to speak out. This is not only a story of paying for crime, but also a reminder that justice, however slow, can still be served when those involved continue to seek the truth. The case of Ryan Weingarten highlights the consequences of crime and also exposes the darkest corners of family relationships. Ryan's moral degradation: he killed his sister and her husband to hide his secrets, with his actions stemming from selfishness, jealousy, and sick motives. He turned his family, which should have been the safest place. Weingarten suffered emotional highs and lows throughout the sentencing, crying at points and flaring up at others. At one point, he quoted from the Bible and then exclaimed loudly that he did not commit the crime, expressing his belief that the Lord knew he was innocent and that he had only told the truth. He referred to himself as an innocent man who was shackled for no reason other than what Repper and Blakely suggested to his wife. He reminisced about the night his daughter, whom he referred to as his little angel sent down from heaven, was conceived. He encouraged his children to be good citizens, advising them not to cheat, lie, or steal, and to be good neighbors who were quick to forgive. At several points during his speech, he wept, stating that he was an innocent man stripped of his family and wife because of lies. Assistant Ottawa County Prosecutor Lee Fisher remarked that Weingarten's outburst only reinforced the opinion that he had committed the killings, implying that he was definitely not in touch with reality. Fisher added that the conviction provided closure for both families and signified that justice had been served, allowing them to no longer wonder what had happened to their brother and Gail. "My sister's been dead for 27 years, Murphy sobbed. "Now, I can go to her grave and say goodbye. You know, we're done. We're done. We finally got him, Gail and Rick. You can rest in peace now." Detective Blakely retired shortly after the trial ended. Repper said she's not sure who her new partner or what her next cold case investigation will be, but that she hopes to continue to bring justice to victims and closure to their families. This case highlights how hidden secrets can have devastating effects. Weingarten harbored a dark secret for years before it was uncovered. It demonstrates the psychological and emotional toll of suppressing the truth and how it eventually surfaces, often with significant consequences. Weingarten's conviction was largely based on the testimony of his wife, who revealed his confession after decades of marriage. This underscores how trust in relationships can be strained when significant wrongdoings are involved. It also shows how the burden of knowledge can compel individuals to seek justice, even at personal cost. The case remained unsolved for over 20 years, until investigators revisited it using modern interrogation techniques and social dynamics. This underscores the importance of persistence and advancements in forensic science and investigation, which can bring justice even decades after a crime. The murder stemmed from jealousy and unresolved issues within the family. It serves as a reminder that family disputes, if left unchecked, can escalate into tragic outcomes. Communication and conflict resolution within families are crucial despite the passage of time. The judicial system demonstrated that justice can still be served. This case serves as a reminder to victims' families and society that crimes will not be forgotten, and efforts will continue to uncover the truth. Hello, friends. Welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you, the case of Erica DiNardo. Erica DiNardo was born in Novi Ligure. Her parents were Francesco DiNardo and Susanna Cassini, and she had a younger brother named Gianluca, her father. Francesco was an engineer and a top manager at a local chocolate company. He was a respected man who built his success through hard work. After moving from southern Italy, Susanna, her mother, worked as an accountant at the same company. But after having Erica and Gianluca, she chose to become a full-time homemaker to focus on raising her children. Susanna was very religious and frequently attended church, spending her free time dedicated to family life. The Susanna family lived in a spacious villa in the suburbs of Novi Ligure. Erica was a 16-year-old girl from a wealthy family. She did not show much interest in studying during her school years, but in high school, she began taking accounting courses at the urging of her mother, where she seemed to prove academically successful. Her younger brother, Gianluca, was 11 at the time and focused on his studies. Hoping to follow in his father's footsteps, their family life was peaceful and stable, with no signs of impending turmoil. Then, on February 21, 2001, everything changed. One evening, two women were driving down a narrow street in Novi Ligure when they saw a girl walking. She was covered in blood. The women quickly stopped to help her. The girl introduced herself as Erica and informed them that someone had just attacked her mother and younger brother. What surprised them was that the women were Erica's neighbors. They checked on Erica and called the police, who quickly arrived at Erica's family home. When the police arrived, they entered the house and witnessed a horrific scene. On the kitchen floor, they found the body of 42-year-old Susanna. The kitchen table was knocked over and broken. Susanna had been attacked and murdered. Bloody shoe prints could be seen on the floor. Police then began searching for Erica's younger brother, who, according to Erica, had also been assaulted. They first checked the ground floor but did not find him, so they began to search upstairs. At the bottom of the staircase, they discovered a strange blue liquid of unknown origin. They found Gianluca in the bathroom, where the scene was even more gruesome than downstairs. The boy had suffered 57 stab wounds. At first, the police investigating Erica's house suspected that a robbery had taken place and resulted in murder. However, the brutal nature of the attack was extreme and inconsistent with typical robbery scenarios, where thieves often restrain their victims and attempt to conceal their actions. Leaving survivors would have added to the evidence against them. Furthermore, it was odd that the intruders chose to break in late at night, when all the residents would likely be home. This made the police suspicious. When Francesco returned home, he was deeply saddened to learn that his wife and son had passed away. He tried to comfort Erica. Holding her in tears, Erica told police that she had been in her room upstairs that night, listening to loud music. At about 8:03 p.m., her mother and younger brother returned home from shopping. When Erica turned down the music, she heard screaming from the first floor, followed by a struggle on the stairs. She then saw a strange man attacking her younger brother in the bathroom, and he quickly turned on her mother in a desperate attempt to protect Erica. Her mother screamed for Erica to run and save herself. Erica ran into the living room, where she grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the table and smashed it over the attacker's head, allowing her to escape the house. Minutes after Erica ran into the street, several neighbors in cars stopped to help and called the police. The carabinieri arrived quickly on the scene, and Erica was able to get a clear look at her attackers. She provided sketches that accurately described the two men. The first man had a thick beard, was large in build, and looked much older because of his gray hair. The second attacker was of average build and appeared to be about 25 years old. Forensic scientists examined the crime scene and confirmed that the attackers had entered the house through the garage. However, neighbors reported that the family pets had been quiet throughout the evening. Although they appeared to react aggressively to strangers, it appears that Gianluca tried to escape up the stairs but was caught. At that moment, Susanna fought back desperately. reaching the kitchen, but eventually passed out and died from loss of blood. There was public outrage over the crime, which was the sixth case of attacks and robberies in which a certain gang of migrants was involved. The police had been unable to do anything about it yet, despite the suspected robbery. No valuables or belongings were found missing during a search of the family home, raising suspicions. However, the public shrugged off the news, blaming the government and police for their inaction. The debate over increased security and tackling illegal immigration has resurfaced, with news outlets across Italy criticizing the government's failure to manage the dangerous influx of migrants. There have been calls for citizens to take the issue into their own hands. Meanwhile, Erica continued to assist the police. They quickly noticed that she was not injured. Erica's demeanor was unusually calm and cold, which was surprising considering she had lost half of her family in a horrific event. Even the adult men in the police force struggled to cope with the scene of the tragedy, which was described as the bloodiest crime in the history of the Carabinieri police in the investigation. Despite this, Erica's apparent indifference to the situation was striking. The police decided to show her photos from previous robberies involving similar migrants from their database. During this viewing, she recognized a young man, the same person whose head she had struck with a bottle. His name is Arben, an Albanian from Italy with a permanent residence permit. The young man had a minor issue with the police, but it wasn't serious at that time. Police quickly located Arben and took him to the police station for questioning. They also discovered clothes at his home that matched the description of the attackers given by Erica. However, under questioning, he maintained his innocence. Arben provided a solid alibi, stating that on February 21 at 8:30 p.m., he was bowling with friends. His testimony was confirmed by both witnesses and surveillance camera footage, leading to his release. Furthermore, Erica claimed that she had hit him in the face with a heavy glass bottle, which should have left a mark, but Arben had no head injuries. Police noticed increasing inconsistencies in Erica's testimony. Her behavior seemed suspicious. Raising the police's suspicions, the motive for the crime seemed suspicious because valuables were still in the house. There were no signs of forced entry. The dogs were not barking. And the brutality of the attack raised further suspicion. Generally, criminals harbor grudges that lead to multiple knife wounds. This often suggests a personal motive for the attack. While looking into potential suspects, the police suspected that Erica might be the attacker. However, considering the case and the extent of the injuries, Erica could not have done it alone. Perhaps Erica had an accomplice involved in the case. This led the police to focus their investigation on Erica. They learned that her relationship with her family had recently become strained, although it did not seem serious. Erica and Susanna had very different views on life. The very religious Susanna could not find common ground with Erica, who had no interest in religion. Disturbing entries found in Erica's diary revealed that she had a poor relationship with her younger brother, Gianluca, and that she had even beaten him several times. In Erica's latest diary entries, the police found a name, Mauro Favaro. Nicknamed Mauro, they discovered that Erica's mother had intercepted communications between her and Mauro, prompting them to investigate further. Mauro was 17 years old, the son of a local bar owner. Erica had met him a few months before the tragedy, and there were rumors that they might even have been engaged. Susanna was against their relationship from the start, mainly because of Mauro's bad reputation. Susanna worried that Erica might make a serious mistake by rushing into a relationship as their relationship progressed. Several witnesses observed that Mauro and Erica's daily routines were similar. They would return home when their parents were at work or away on business trips. When they returned home, they would lock themselves in their room, where they would smoke marijuana and engage in various sexual activities, despite the disapproval of their friends. Their intimate relationship continued to grow. The young couple spent almost all of their free time together and neglected other aspects of their lives. Police believe that Susanna's anxiety and interference in Erica and Mauro's relationship could have endangered Susanna's life. They suspect that Erica may have attacked her younger brother, with whom she had a strained relationship during this time. Mauro may have been attacking Susanna on February 23. The police decided to take Erica and Mauro back to the crime scene to observe their reactions and behavior. Police claimed that Erica needed to reenact and describe the attack, hoping to uncover inconsistencies in her story that would reveal if she was lying. Erica continued to cooperate with the investigation, but after a thorough examination of the crime scene, the police quickly noticed discrepancies between the evidence and Erica's account. While Mauro sat in the house, he listened closely to his girlfriend's story. However, he remained silent the entire time and seemed very tense. It's clear that Mauro knows more than he is letting on. Later, the couple was taken back to the police station and placed in a small room. They were being filmed, and everything that occurred was recorded. But the Erica and Mauro were unaware of this. The Mauro appeared very anxious, while the Erica tried to soothe him. After a few minutes, they both began to relax a bit and started talking about some truly disturbing topics. Mauro describes in detail how he killed Gianluca and expresses his delight at the unusual color of the water in the bathroom. Erica believes that the police have no solid evidence against them, so they will probably be released after questioning. She has prepared carefully for this situation, telling Mauro that she will be the only witness and will protect him. Erica says that they can now openly declare their love for each other and walk around the city without fear. She then happily calls out to him and kisses him. At this point, the recording in the room ends. The prosecutor's office received a recording of confessions from Mauro and Erica regarding the massacre of Erica's mother and brother. The case shocked everyone, including the local community, who were preparing to take action against migrants. Erica was sent to the Beccaria Juvenile Detention Center in Milan, while Mauro was transferred to Ferran Porti in Turin. At the time, Mauro and Erica were being questioned separately, despite her earlier promise to keep the secret and protect Mauro, which was captured on video. However, when the police put pressure on them, Mauro and Erica began to blame each other. Erica claimed that Mauro had killed her mother first and then her brother. She said that she was locked in the bathroom and was only released by him after the crime had been committed. According to her, Mauro acted out of anger because Susanna would not allow them to be together. Erica claimed to be a victim of manipulation and said that she was so depressed at the time of the crime that she barely knew what she was doing. Erica remained in contact with friends and even mentioned that she would be released soon because she was innocent and had been harmed by Mauro. However, the police had good reason to believe that Erica was actually the one who initiated the massacre and was involved in the murder. Her relatives described Erica as confident, cool, and assertive, while Mauro was seen as passive. This led the police to conclude that Erica was the driving force behind the attack, making them a couple involved in the murder. During the investigation, a substance was discovered on the floor. Initially, Erica and Mauro intended to use a special poison instead of a knife to harm Gianluca. As the poison was not water-soluble, Gianluca accidentally knocked over the cup containing the poison as he ran up the stairs, leading to the discovery of the substance by a forensic scientist. Mauro claimed that Erica was the mastermind behind the idea and the crime. Mauro began to insist that he had not entered Erica's house that day. He claimed that Erica had often expressed a desire to harm her family, as they were interfering with her happiness. Mauro then recounted that Erica had let him into the house that evening and given him rubber gloves and a knife. He insisted that he had refused her request to kill younger brother and mother, which enraged Erica. She then locked him in the bathroom and only let him out after she had finished with her family members herself. The prosecutor's office had strong evidence that Mauro had lied. Mauro then cooperated with the investigation. He revealed the location of the murder weapon, gloves, and poison. Eventually, These items were found through the analysis of new evidence. It was revealed that Erica had killed Susanna and Gianluca, but Mauro was also an accomplice. They had inflicted multiple stab wounds on the two victims on November 28, 2001. Erica's trial began as scheduled. She and Mauro both underwent extensive interviews and evaluations, which revealed that Erica had mental health problems. Specifically, she exhibited characteristics of narcissistic personality disorder, showing a strong dependence on the admiration of others. Erica and Mauro were both found to be sane and competent to attend the hearing. During the hearing, both accused each other. In the sequence of events that evening, a violent argument broke out between Erica and her mother when they returned home. Mauro was near the garage and, upon hearing the noise, rushed inside to drown out the noise and avoid alarming the neighbors. Erica turned up the music. Mauro then attacked her mother in the kitchen with a knife, covered her mouth to prevent her from screaming, and began to inflict several blows. During the struggle, Susanna knocked over a kitchen chair, breaking it. Seconds after the attack began, Erica joined Mauro in attacking her mother. Susanna fought off both attackers as best she could, but eventually she became weak and died. Before she died, she begged for Gianluca's life. Initially, the two did not intend to kill the boy, but since the child could be a witness, they decided to kill him as well. Erica and Mauro then attempted to drown him in the bathroom, but Gianluca fought back violently. They eventually decided to stab Gianluca after the murder. The two considered killing Erica's father, Francesco, but they were too exhausted and abandoned the idea. Believing they would not be able to overpower him, Erica and Mauro attempted to clean up the blood, but were unsuccessful. They then cleaned the knives to remove any fingerprints. One knife was discarded in the trash, along with the gloves, while the other was left on the kitchen floor. Mauro then left on his scooter. A passerby noticed him on the road, particularly his blood-stained pants, and later reported this to the police. On December 14, 2001, the Turin Juvenile Court sentenced Erica DiNardo to 16 years in prison for first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Mauro Favaro received a 14-year sentence, 2 years less than Erica, because he actively cooperated with police during the investigation. The prosecutor's office highlighted that his cooperation was crucial in solving the crime. After hearing the verdict, Erica broke down and cried. While Mauro appeared confused, Erica became so angry that she started insulting everyone, including the judge. Her sudden change in mood raised concerns about the fairness of the verdict. Erica and Mauro will spend part of their sentences in juvenile facilities until they turn 21, after which they will be transferred to adult correctional facilities. In 2005, Erica requested to be transferred to a prison with a more supportive environment. However, her behavior remained unchanged, resulting in her request being denied. A psychological evaluation in 2006 deemed Erica a danger to society, revealing a severe personality disorder that required long-term psychotherapy. Experts warned that if nothing was done, she would likely harm others after her release from prison. After receiving treatment, Erica's condition improved significantly. She learned to control her anger and became calmer. She earned a degree in philosophy and even defended her thesis on Socrates. In April 2009, the committee praised her progress. Erica was finally released on March 3, 2010. She joined a volunteer organization that helps former prisoners reintegrate into society. Erica spent some time in a psychiatric hospital in Castiglione della Stiviere, where she met a musician who was volunteering there. They developed a romantic relationship, and she later married him. They moved to a farm near Lake Niposi. Throughout this time, her father, Francesco, remained supportive and close to her. Erica regrets her past actions. She misses her mother and younger brother and hopes that they can forgive her. In 2010, Mauro is released from prison. He finds a job as a bartender and moves in with a girlfriend. They later marry and have a daughter. However, in December Mauro is seen visiting the graves of Susanna and Gianluca at a cemetery the next day. News of this visit makes the front page of the local newspapers, attracting the attention of Erica and her family. She feels that Mauro's act of visiting the grave is just a way for him to gain national fame. Erica finds it shameful that he takes pictures and tries to sell them to the media. Erica's actions, in this context, highlight her coldness. Mauro expresses remorse for his past mistakes.